Chapter 2230. Although news reporters traveled everywhere and would visit wherever there was big news, no matter how much these news reporters loved to travel, the biggest headline of the evening was none other than the gala that had caused a sensation all over the world. Therefore, most of the news reporters who wanted to interview Yun Jian in the morning would come to the gala to continue their interview work. Of course, the premise was that these news reporters had to be approved by the Rongyao Company, which had invited all the international bigwigs to the gala before they could enter the venue. However, most companies would allow news reporters to enter such a venue to film and interview. After all, if a big company wanted to hold a gala, wouldn't it be to promote the company's good name? Therefore, Kai Huiling guessed that the news reporters who had been provoked by Yun Jian in the morning would probably be there too. After all, if you offended a news reporter, it was not impossible for the reporter to take a picture of your ugly side and exaggerate it to write a report to be published in the news. It was also because she had heard that Yun Jian had provoked a group of news reporters who wanted to interview her in the morning and had even broken all the cameras of the group of photographers. Therefore, when Kai Huiling saw Yun Jian, she hurried over. After all, the cameras in 2003 were high-end goods that had to be imported from abroad and were very expensive. It would be strange if those news reporters and photographers did not hold a grudge. Hearing Kai Huiling say that there would be news reporters and photographers coming to the gala to interview the bigwigs, Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. Seeing Yun Jian's slightly darkened eyes, Kai Huiling thought that Yun Jian was afraid of the news reporter's revenge. She held her father's hand and did not even give the others a chance to react or speak before she hurriedly continued to speak to Yun Jian. So, you'd better hurry up and find a place to hide, in case those news reporters take revenge on you. Ha ha ha. As Kai Huiling spoke, she threw a contemptuous look at Yun Jian. Wait, this classmate, you said that Yun Jian provoked the news reporters? This is... Jian Ning was stunned when she heard this, and then she spoke in disbelief. As soon as she asked this question, Kai Huiling rushed to explain again. I wasn't there at the time, but I heard that Yun Jian not only refused to be interviewed by a news reporter, but he even smashed the cameraman's camera. In fact, it only took Yun Jian 10 seconds to destroy the cameraman's camera. However, in these 10 seconds, the people present did not even notice how she made her move. After Yun Jian walked past them, the cameras were instantly destroyed. At that time, the group of news reporters was shocked. Kai Huiling was also shocked when she heard about it. In spite of it, Kai Huiling was here to deal with Yun Jian instead of praising her. So what she said was, of course, a negative spin. Reporters have to go in too. Yun Jian frowned again when she heard that. Kai Huiling was sure that Yun Jian was afraid that the reporters would take revenge on her after they entered the venue. Therefore, Kai Huiling's smile deepened. Just as Kai Huiling thought so and smiled confidently, Yun Jian suddenly whipped out her phone and dialed a number in front of everyone. Before the other end of the line could be heard and the call was picked up, she spoke faintly in front of everyone. I'm sorry. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2231. Yun Jian's words rang clearly in everyone's ears. In the ears of Kai Huiling, Jian Ning, Zhang Xiaoyu, and the others present, the meaning of his words was like a tempestuous storm. Everyone's expression changed drastically. If she could say that, it meant that was she a senior executive of Rongyao Company? Was she kidding? Rongyao Company was located in Country M and had been established for many years. There was no shortage of elites in Rongyao Company. In Rongyao Company, even an ordinary employee had an annual salary of more than 1 million yuan. Not to mention the senior executives of Rongyao Company. Of course, the higher the annual salary, the higher the requirements. If one wanted to be a senior executive of Rongyao Company, he or she had to be an international bigwig. It was not something an ordinary person could do. Was Yun Jian not bluffing and fabricating something out of nothing with what she said? Even Kai Huiling's father, a middle-aged man with shifty eyes, who was only about 6 meters tall and was so thin that his suit couldn't hold the hem of his clothes, couldn't help but stand up and speak in a disdainful tone. Little girl, you're the one who loves to talk nonsense the most among all the little girls I've ever seen. It's the Rongyao Company's internal matter whether they invite reporters or not. You can't be a senior executive of Rongyao Company. It's better for a little girl like you to go back to school and study obediently. Why did you come to such a big event to join in on the fun? Tonight, it's a scene for adults. I really don't know how you bunch of brats managed to sneak in after getting the invitation letter. I have to say that the guards of Rongyao Company are really bad. They actually let some unimportant little kids sneak in. Kai Iliang spoke to Yun Jian and the others in a tone of speaking to them, as if they were children. Kai Iliang thought that Yun Jian and the others sneaked in. After all, those who received invitations usually came with their parents. Taking a cursory glance at the scene, he found that except for the members of the martial arts club that Yun Jian had brought in, as well as Jian Ning's group of 5, the rest of the people who were about the same age as Yun Jian were all accompanied by their parents. This wasn't strange. In fact, some young girls were brought to such a big occasion by their parents not only to broaden their horizons, but also to enter a better social circle and get to know better people. Therefore, most of them were accompanied by their parents. Looking around the scene, he really couldn't find anyone like Yun Jian, the members of the martial arts club, or the young girls in their early 20s who came by themselves like Jian Ning and the other 4. Therefore, Kai Iliang's words were pardonable. Kai Iliang's words did not give Yun Jian any face at all. After hearing Kai Iliang's words, Yun Jian merely narrowed her eyes and didn't say anything. Yun Jian did not say anything because a second later, the lights went out. Another second later, a beautiful neon light flashed. Above a spiral staircase, an enchanting and charming woman appeared. After this enchanting and charming woman appeared at the top of the spiral staircase, all the beautiful neon lights shone on this enchanting and charming woman. This woman in a bright red lace low-cut evening dress was none other than Demon Woman. At that time, Demon Woman was standing at the top of the spiral staircase. She introduced herself and said these words, "Hello, everyone. I am the president of Rongyao Company, Demon Woman. I just received a notice from my subordinates. At the request of my superiors, there will be no news reporters at tonight's party, so I would like to thank all the international bigwigs from all over the world. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website." Chapter 2232. What the demoness said was just a simple opening. Standing at the top of the spiral staircase, before the demoness said these simple opening, she also emphasized that there would be no news reporters at the ball tonight. This meant that this group of international bigwigs could talk freely in the ball venue. No matter what they said, they didn't need to care because everything that was said at the ball tonight would not be reported. The demoness just repeated in front of everyone that Yun Jian had just called the staff of the Rongyao Company to manage the ball tonight. But when these words were heard, Kai Iliang felt as if he had heard something shocking. Kai Iliang just said that Yun Jian was not a senior executive of the Rongyao Company. Why would a little girl come here to attend an adult's ball? It would be better for her to go back to school and study. As soon as he said this, he heard the president of the Rongyao Company standing in front of all the international bigwigs and saying these words. This feeling to Kai Iliang was simply dad. After Kai Huiling heard the words of the president of the Rongyao Company, the demoness, she fiercely pulled Kai Iliang's wrist, and her face instantly turned pale. Fortunately, all the lights in the hall were turned off at this moment. All the neon lights shone on the demoness standing at the top of the spiral staircase, so outsiders could not see Kai Huiling's face at this moment. At this moment, Kai Huiling secretly acted coquettishly to Kai Iliang. Don't panic, don't panic. This is just a coincidence. Kai Iliang stood in the dark and secretly comforted Kai Huiling. In fact, before coming, Kai Huiling told Kai Iliang all the things that she had been bullied by Yun Jian. When Kai Iliang heard that his daughter was bullied in front of outsiders, he was so angry that he promised Kai Huiling on the spot that he would help his daughter get back at Yun Jian. That was why Kai Huiling saw Yun Jian pulling her father, Kai Iliang, and quickly walking towards her and mocking her. At that time, Kai Iliang secretly told his daughter, Kai Huiling. Kai Iliang secretly said this to Kai Huiling. He thought that Yun Jian couldn't hear him at all. At that time, Yun Jian pretended that she didn't hear Kai Ilyong's words. She lowered her eyes in the dark and didn't say anything. The demoness only said a few words and announced that it was 6 o'clock and the party had officially begun. Then, she left the stage. I don't know how you guessed that the reporters wouldn't show up tonight, but some people just can't hide their poverty. I've never attended such a large-scale international party before, so I can't imitate the demeanor of a lady from a wealthy family, no matter how I try. Since you have the opportunity to come to such a large-scale event, then watch and learn. The life of the upper class. Kai Huiling's words had always been vicious. This had started from the time Yun Jian had stepped on her in front of everyone, causing her to lose face. Hearing Kai Huiling's words, Jian Ning and the others were stunned. Yun Jian's cold eyes only moved slightly, but she didn't say anything. As Kai Ilyong watched, he suddenly wanted to help his daughter raise her social status. At this moment, he looked around and suddenly saw an old acquaintance. This old acquaintance was an old friend he met in Country Y. When Kai Ilyong saw this, he hurriedly waved at him in English. "Hey, Jamie, over here. My daughter wants to talk to you in English." As Kai Ilyong said this, he pushed Kai Huiling in front of this old acquaintance of his. As he spoke, Kai Ilyong glanced at Yun Jian like a child and urged Kai Huiling, "What's the matter? My daughter has been learning English since elementary school, and she's already at level 9. Quick, Huiling, try to talk to your Uncle Jamie." When Kai Huiling heard this, she hurriedly said a few words to Jamie in front of everyone. Jamie exchanged a few words with Kai Huiling and nodded with a smile, but he was about to leave after a while. When Kai Ilyong saw this, he thought that he had gained enough face in front of Yun Jian. He was about to turn around and show off to Yun Jian that his daughter, Kai Huiling, had spoken a few standard everyday words. But suddenly, he heard Yun Jian use extremely fluent English to call out to Jamie, who had originally wanted to find an excuse to turn around and leave because he didn't want to talk to Kai Huiling, whose pronunciation wasn't standard, in front of everyone. "Are you the manager of the International Trade Center, Mr. Jamie? Please remember the domain name of this book." Mobile reading website. Chapter 2233. Jamie, who had originally found an excuse to turn around and leave, suddenly heard Yun Jian's words, and he abruptly stopped in his tracks. Slowly turning around, Jamie glanced sideways at Yun Jian, his eyes revealing a trace of shock. In spite of it, Jamie pushed the shock to the back of his mind and turned around, ignoring Kai Huiling as he flashed a kind smile at Yun Jian and said, "What's the matter with you?" I wonder who this little friend is." Jamie's words were completely different from the tone of impatience when he was talking to Kai Huiling just now. While everyone present was surprised that Yun Jian could speak such perfect English, they didn't forget to look at Jamie's extremely friendly attitude towards Yun Jian. "Tonight's banquet is too shabby. I hope Mr. Jamie can forgive us." Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled as she spoke to Jamie. Yun Jian's words made it seem like she was the highest-level person in Rongyao Company hosting this banquet. Therefore, the people present who were shocked that Yun Jian could speak such fluent English and knew Mr. Jamie's identity were suddenly shocked by Yun Jian's tone of voice. Regarding Yun Jian's tone of voice, Mr. Jamie didn't find anything wrong with it. Instead, he smiled generously at Yun Jian and then said, "You're too kind. I'm already extremely honored to be invited to today's banquet." With this exchange, Mr. Jamie started to talk to Yun Jian. But because the two were communicating in English, Kai Huiling, Jian Ning, and the others present were in a state of half-understanding. But Kai Ilyong understood English, and naturally understood English completely. From the moment Yun Jian spoke, he was shocked by Yun Jian's English pronunciation. Until now, he was flabbergasted. How is this AZ country person learning to communicate in English with a foreigner? This was like two foreigners conversing with each other. If he didn't see this string of English words coming out of Yun Jian's mouth with his own eyes, Kai Ilyong wouldn't even believe that Yun Jian could speak a foreign language that was no different from a foreigner's. Until the end, when Jamie blew a kiss to Yun Jian and said, "Little girl, I really like you," everyone present still hadn't recovered from their shock. This Jamie was clearly someone Kai Ilyong knew, but in the end, he actually chatted so happily with Yun Jian. especially since the person who called out first was Kai Il-yong. When everyone present saw this scene, their shocked gazes fiercely froze. Seeing this, Kai Il-yong and Kai Huiling's expressions abruptly changed fiercely. At the same time, Kai Il-yong was harping on Yunjian's words when she spoke to Jamie, as if she was the host of the event just now, and spoke to her sternly. "Little girl, do you think you're the host of tonight's banquet? Do you know the status of the host of tonight's banquet that you're imitating? That's the chairman of Rongyao Company. A top figure that many people want to meet, but can't. How can a little kid like you imitate, just because you want to?" Kai Il-yong's tone was very strict, and every word of his was attacking Yunjian. Everyone present, even a fool, could hear it. "That's right. My dad is right. Who do you think you are? How dare you imitate the chairman of Rongyao Company? Do you think you just happened to say that a news reporter won't appear tonight, and really think that the chairman of Rongyao Company emphasized this point because of your words? Huh, how is that possible? Arrogant. I'll let you be arrogant. You just performed a slightly outstanding program on New Year's Day, and you really think you're the best. What's so great about being the new president of a martial arts club? Let me tell you, if you know what's good for you, then obediently withdraw from the martial arts club. Otherwise, my dad is my backer, and he will support me." Just as Kai Huiling said this, a group of people suddenly walked in through the entrance of the banquet hall. Kai Huiling wanted to say something, but the discussion of the people standing at the side and their words completely attracted Kai Huiling, Kai Il-yong, Jian Ning, and everyone else's attention. "Look, the person walking at the front. It's the boss of the province's Falcon Hall, Su Zetian. Oh my God, next to Su Zetian, isn't that the chairman of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan? And behind them, that's my God. Why is such a force here? That's the snake lizard of the Kosha mercenaries. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 2234. Kosha Mercenaries. The Kosha mercenaries are here? Oh my God. Don't be shocked. The international bigwigs who are already here, the directors of multinational corporations, international trade groups, business politicians, and so on, are all just small characters. The real bigwigs haven't even appeared tonight. The two people standing at the side were whispering to each other. At that moment, one of the two people standing at the side was putting his lips close to the other person's ear and muttering loudly, as if he was afraid that the other person standing beside him couldn't hear him clearly. At that moment, the surrounding people did indeed hear this person's loud muttering. But at this moment, no one blamed this person for moving closer to the other person's ear and speaking in a loud voice when he should have been whispering softly. Kai Huiling and Kai Il-yong were also attracted by the two people's voices. Immediately, Kai Huiling and Kai Il-yong shut their mouths and didn't say anything. The person who knew the details of tonight's situation moved closer to the other person's ear. Seeing that the surrounding people were looking at him, he became even more smug. His hand made a gesture of whispering softly, but the words that came out of his mouth were as if they were filtered through a loudspeaker, extremely loud and clear throughout the entire venue. "I heard that underground organizations like Gusha mercenaries will have a lot of people here tonight. Even some international bigwigs, like Secret Service agents and assassins, will be here. But such bigwigs won't appear openly. Maybe the inconspicuous person walking past you in this banquet hall is a Secret Service agent or a bigwig on the assassin rankings." This person said loudly while making frightening gestures and expressions to his companions. At the same time, he gently turned his body to the side to observe the reactions of the crowd around him. Obviously, after this person said these words, the faces of some of the people from the underground forces instantly darkened. Obviously, they were frightened. This person probably only knew that much, so after saying this, he didn't have anything else to say. At that moment, after hearing this person's words, Kai Huiling gathered her clothes. She was somewhat frightened and reached out to pull her father's sleeve. Then, she said in a trembling voice, "Dad, will Secret Service agents and assassins disguise themselves as ordinary people, just like the Secret Service agents and assassins in the movies?" Will such a terrifying person appear at the banquet? Kai Ilyang himself had never seen such a scene before. At that time, he was so scared that he was in a daze. His daughter, Kai Huiling, tugged at his sleeve. Kai Ilyang looked straight and paused for 3 seconds before he reacted. A thin layer of sweat appeared on Kai Ilyang's forehead. In order not to let the people around him see his panic, he swallowed hard and then pretended to be calm as he comforted Kai Huiling. Huiling, Dad will protect you. What was there to be afraid of? What's more, the people who should be afraid should be those who came to the party by themselves without the accompaniment of their parents. As he spoke, Kai Ilyang's gaze flickered to Yun Jian and Jian Ning. Kai Ilyang was obviously referring to Yun Jian and Jian Ning. Hearing this, Yun Jian sneered. Tonight, you'll have an unforgettable night, Yun Jian suddenly said to Kai Ilyang and Kai Huiling with a sinister smile. Then, Yun Jian waved at Jian Ning and the others and walked to the side. TSK, what's there to be proud of? You think you're so powerful. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Kai Huiling twitched the corner of her mouth and glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eye. However, just as Kai Huiling glanced at Yun Jian's direction coldly, she suddenly caught sight of the province's Falcon Hall's boss, New Cruise's chairman, Zhang Jifan, and where the Kosha mercenaries' elder snake lizard was. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com, wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 2235, page 1/1. Dad, aren't those the international big shots that the guy mentioned just now? Why did she walk over there? Could it be that she knows those international big shots? Kai Huiling suddenly reached out and grabbed Kai Ilyang. Her eyes froze for a moment, and then her face suddenly changed from fright. In front of Kai Huiling, Kai Ilyang, and everyone else present, Yun Jian walked straight to the province's Falcon Hall boss Su Zetian, Rongyao Company's chairman Zhang Jifan, and Kosha mercenary snake, Lizard Elder, and said something that Kai Huiling couldn't hear clearly. Then, Su Zetian, Zhang Jifan, and Snake, Lizard, these 3 big shots in the underworld, followed Yun Jian out of the party's back door. What's going on? Not to mention Kai Huiling, even Kai Ilyang was stunned by the scene in front of him. The 3 of them were all big shots who could command the wind and the clouds. Whether it was strength or influence, they were all top-notch figures. Usually, a small figure like Kai Ilyang could only stand at the bottom and look at the sky from afar. But Yun Jian, what did she say to the 3 of them just now? The 3 of them were actually following Yun Jian out of the party's back door obediently. Huiling, don't panic. She must have deliberately found an excuse to call them out of the party's back door. You can't do such a dangerous thing. Negotiating with an international big shot of such strength is life-threatening at any time. Kai Ilyang immediately had his own limited excuse to explain the scene just now. He thought that Yun Jian had found a random excuse to call Snake, Lizard, and the other 2 to the party's backdoor garden in order to fight back against him and Kai Huiling. Dad, I know. I'm not as stupid as Yun Jian. She actually dared to behave so atrociously in front of Tiger. She really doesn't want to live anymore. After hearing that, Kai Huiling immediately agreed. She really thought that Yun Jian did it on purpose. Only Jian Ning and the other 5 narrowed their eyes as they looked at Yun Jian's direction. They felt that since Yun Jian had the ability to call those 3 big shots out of the party, there must be something different about her. But Jian Ning and the other 5 didn't know what was different about her. Yun Jian, Snake, Lizard, and the other 2 walked out of the party's back door and came back not long after. At that time, Snake, Lizard, and the other 2 acted as if they didn't know Yun Jian and walked past Yun Jian. The venue was spacious, but just as Yun Jian returned from the back door, she saw the members of the martial arts club who had attended the event with her. At that time, beside Mo Bufan were not only the members of the martial arts club, but also Mo Bufan's other 3 buddies, Brother Kai, Su Jinglong, and Wei Jingxian. Chapter 2236. This string of gunshots, accompanied by this sudden male voice, instantly brought the atmosphere of the scene to its climax. Everyone present was shocked by the 2 consecutive gunshots at the gate. Their faces suddenly changed. Outside the door that had just been opened and hadn't been closed in time, the 2 big bosses dressed in gold and silver who were trying to leave the banquet hall were shot between their eyebrows from a high altitude. At this moment, they were lying in a pool of blood, their eyes rolled back, and they died tragically. Dead. Someone is dead. Someone is dead. The scene immediately became restless, but at this time, the group of businessmen, politicians, and conglomerates were all scared to the point that their bodies reflexively looked for a corner to hide. At this time, Emo Buffon, Hua Ling, Brother Kai, Su Jinlong, and Wei Jingxian of the martial arts club were all shocked. What the hell is going on now? Dad, what's going on now? Dad, I'm scared. Is this reverse emperor organization also an assassin organization like the Kosha mercenaries just now? What should we do? What should we do? At this time, Kai Huiling was holding her father Kai Iliang's hand tightly and running around like a headless fly. She rushed to a long table and hid. Her whole body was trembling, and she didn't even know who she was. No, I don't know. Shut up, shut up. Kai Iliang was also in a trance. He reached out his trembling hand and covered Kai Huiling's hand, afraid that his whereabouts would be exposed in front of everyone because of Kai Huiling. At this moment, the owner of the strong male voice had already appeared in front of everyone. The owner of the strong male voice was a bald man. He was not good-looking, and there was a deep scar on his neck, which was even deeper than the one on Shui Ying's neck. There was a deep scar on the bald man's neck, which was completely different from the deep scar on Shui Ying's neck. Shui Ying was handsome to begin with. With that handsome appearance, even if there was a deep scar on his neck, other than accentuating his masculinity, it was still acceptable even though it was ugly. However, when the scar on the bald man's neck was exposed, it brought out his ugly side even more. It was as if a magnifying glass was shining on him, showing his ugly side completely in front of everyone. That ugly appearance could not be described with words. You guys can't leave. At this time, the moment she saw the bald man, Yun Jian suddenly said something that Emo Buffon and the others did not understand. What? Then we? When Hua Ling heard this, she suddenly realized why Yun Jian asked them to leave before 7 o'clock. But under the current situation, things were brought forward. Find a corner and hide. Yun Jian suddenly said, What about you? When Su Jinlong heard Yun Jian's words, he immediately said. With that, Su Jinlong paused. He, who liked to flirt, became serious at this critical moment. At this time, Su Jinlong paused and continued to say to Yun Jian, such matters should be handled by the underworld. This kind of underworld matter should naturally be handled by someone from the underworld. No matter how powerful you are, you're just a college student. Don't worry about our safety. Hurry up and find a corner with us to hide. Hi! When she heard Su Jinlong's words, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. In the next second, in front of Su Jinlong, she suddenly pulled up the corner of her clothes and took out a silver pistol. Then, she gently tapped the silver pistol's magazine. When Su Jinlong, Emo Buffon, and the others saw this, they suddenly looked terrified. She had already walked toward the bald man. An indifferent voice mixed with a clear and cold tone was transmitted to the ears of everyone present. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2237. Yun Jian's words were very arrogant, but she didn't say it to Su Jinlong, Emo Buffon, and the others. At that moment, after the bald man's words spread throughout the hall, no one dared to speak again. After Yun Jian's words were heard, almost everyone in the hall could hear Yun Jian's voice. Her arrogant words made everyone present exclaim in surprise, and it completely terrified Emo Buffon, Su Jinlong, Brother Kai, Wei Jingxian, and the entire martial arts club. Yun Jian's strength was indeed powerful, but it was only limited to the university. The world was so big, and society was like a big dye vat. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was, there would definitely be people who were more powerful than Yun Jian. especially today's banquet. The people who came were all international bigwigs, and it was said that there were also some global underworld forces. Those were people who killed people without batting an eyelid, especially the bald man who spoke just now. Before this, he had already killed the two big bosses who were about to leave just now. Just by looking at their attire, one could tell that they were of high status. Yun Jian actually dared to speak at this juncture. Was she tired of living? At this moment, not only were Kai Huiling, Kai Iliang, and the others who were hiding under the long table shocked. Even Imo Buffon and the others were scared half to death. At this time, the bald man slightly tilted his head and looked over. His pair of sharp eyes squinted at Yun Jian. Just as he was about to speak, he was once again interrupted by Yun Jian. The Reverse Emperor organization is really powerful. Today, I really have a new level of respect for you. As soon as he finished speaking, a cloud of doubt once again swept over the heads of everyone present, as if they had understood something. What did Yun Jian mean? Why did it sound like the Reverse Emperor organization appeared just to target her? Who did she think she was? How could she provoke so many people to target her? Kai Huiling hid under the long table and trembled in fear. She even rolled her eyes at Yun Jian coldly. Hee. The Kosha mercenaries formation is not bad either. After hearing this, the bald man sneered and spoke to Yun Jian in the same tone as the leader of the Reverse Emperor organization. Just when the people around seemed to have guessed the identity of Yun Jian and the bald man, and their expressions changed drastically, Yun Jian spoke again to the bald man, causing everyone's jaws to drop. So, it's time for the leader of the Reverse Emperor organization to come out. You, a lackey, should also get lost. After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was stunned. The bald man's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes in front of everyone. She stood still and spoke again. What's wrong? The leader of the Reverse Emperor organization? Or do I have to point you out by name? My good friend, Janine, who's been trying to get close to me since a few months ago on the plane. After Yun Jian spoke, everyone's expression changed even more. Even Jian Ning, and a few others beside her were shocked. After a moment of shock, Jian Ning's lips curled into a smirk. She tore off her human skin mask in front of everyone and strode toward Yun Jian, no longer behaving like an ignorant little girl. As expected of the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, nothing can escape your eyes. Everyone who saw this scene was so scared that their souls almost flew out of their bodies. This girl was actually the leader of the Reverse Emperor organization. How was this possible? Kai Huiling, who was a distance away, was so scared that her whole body was trembling. Yun Jian was so close to Jian Ning just a moment ago. How did she, before the crowd could react? Yun Jian shifted and met Jian Ning's eyes. Her aura that was not inferior to Jian Ning's was on full display. In the next second, she glanced at Jian Ning, Zhang Xiaoyu, Milfo, and the others who were standing beside her in front of the crowd and said, "What's the matter? Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website." Chapter 2238. So, the reason why Reverse Emperor gathered all the international figures is to recreate the Bloody Night incident to me, slaying God. Everyone was stunned when Yun Jian's words rang in their ears. It had to be said that the Bloody Night incident back then was too sensational, so much so that when the international bigwigs present heard the words Bloody Night incident, they would be stunned for a moment, unable to recover from the terrifying words for a long time. The Bloody Night incident. Back then, slaying God had single-handedly killed the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking. Slaying God single-handedly wiped out the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking. One must know that the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking had been on the list for years. Their ability was on a completely different level compared to the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking today. For example, the abilities of the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking who were killed by slaying God during the Bloody Night incident might need to be multiplied by 3 times on the basis of the current top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking to be on par with the 20 assassins back then. One could only imagine slaying God's ability. Even the 20 assassins back then could not defeat her. Hence, it was not difficult to describe the shock all the international bosses felt when they heard about Yun Jian's identity. Slaying God? Kai Huiling, who was hiding under the dining table, shuddered when she heard Yun Jian's self-introduction. She shivered and repeated the 2 words. Dad, Dad. The name Slaying God sounds familiar. This is... Kai Huiling hid under the dining table and asked Kai Ilyong in a trembling voice. Shut up if you want to live. Kai Ilyong hugged the corner of the table and trembled like a spinning top. He immediately shouted for his daughter to shut up when he heard her question. Kai Huiling was a university student after all. Not every student had heard of slaying God's name. However, after Kai Huiling asked the question, Kai Ilyong shouted at her. She trembled slightly and didn't say anything else. Her instincts told her that the name Slaying God was not simple. Slaying God, Slaying God. Mo Buffon frowned. While he was shocked by Yun Jian's words, he did not forget to repeat those words. Why did he find the name Slaying God familiar? However, he couldn't recall where he had heard those 2 words before. Everyone from the Martial Arts Society, including Brother Kai, Su Zhenglong, and Wei Jingxian, were stunned for a few seconds. It took them a while to realize who Slaying God was. Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted at Yun Jian, Slaying God. You're Slaying God. That international, Slaying God, the number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking. But before he could exclaim out loud, the sound of a silenced pistol rang out. Before the person in the crowd who was looking at Yun Jian could finish his exclamation, Jian Ning raised her gun and shot him dead. In Jian Ning's eyes, human lives were like grass. After killing the man, she touched the muzzle of her gun and looked at Yun Jian from the corner of her eyes with a cold smirk. The Bloody Night incident was indeed sensational, but everything will become a thing of the past. Slaying God is no exception, and I, Zhen Yu, am the one who can make you, Slaying God, a thing of the past. Jian Ning was the leader of Reverse Emperor. Her code name was Zhen Yu. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes when she heard what Jian Ning said. That depends on whether you're capable of it. Yun Jian's deep eyes flickered. After that, she tore the black evening gown she was wearing in front of everyone. Under the black evening gown, Yun Jian was wearing a leather jacket and pants. 2 butterfly knives were strapped to her thighs, and 2 shiny silver pistols were strapped to her waist. Everyone was stunned by her complete set of equipment. They could not help but think of the term female secret agent. At that moment, Mo Buffon, who had some impression of the name Slaying God, suddenly remembered the meaning of the name. He pointed at Yun Jian, his eyes widening as he exclaimed, Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2239. Mo Buffon was about to say something when he suddenly paused. Mo Buffon was not stupid. He immediately remembered the person who wanted to expose Yun Jian's identity but was shot dead by Jian Ning. He immediately shut his mouth. At this time, Jian Ning, who was about to raise her gun to kill Mo Buffon, put down her hand. She curled her lips into a cold arc and said contemptuously again, Jian Ning had just shot a person. This action had already scared the surrounding people so much that they were trembling nonstop. Kai Huiling was also hugging the corner of the table and trembling. Dead. Someone was dead, but she did not dare to make a sound, let alone say half a word. She was afraid that Jian Ning would see her hiding place and kill her like how she killed the person just now. Just now, Mo Buffon was anxious and shouted those words. He stopped in time. Seeing Jian Ning, who was about to kill him, put down her gun, Mo Buffon lowered his head and let out a sigh of relief. Although they did not hear Yun Jian's true identity from Mo Buffon, the members of the martial arts club standing next to Mo Buffon, as well as Mo Buffon's good brothers, Brother Kai, Su Zhenglong, and Wei Jingxian, all let out a sigh of relief. However, just as all the international bigwigs heaved a sigh of relief, they saw Jian Ning's cold red lips curl up. In the next second, after Mo Bufan heaved a sigh of relief, she raised her hand and fired a shot at Mo Bufan's head at the fastest speed possible. This shot carried an absolute momentum. Mo Bufan, who was standing in the distance and thought that he had escaped, narrowed his eyes again. He was completely unable to react in time. Bufan, Bufan, Bufan. Mo Bufan's three good brothers, Brother Kai, Su Zhenglong, and Wei Jingxian, all shouted out when they saw this. But just as the three of them exclaimed in unison and their expressions changed drastically, the bullet that Jian Ning suddenly fired at Mo Bufan was already 3 meters away from Mo Bufan's head. In less than a second, the bullet would pierce through Mo Bufan's head and kill him in one shot. However, when the bullet was only 10 centimeters away from piercing through Mo Bufan's head, everyone present was about to close their eyes, unwilling to watch the tragedy unfold. The second Mo Bufan thought that he would definitely die here today. Chi, a bullet that was much faster than the bullet Jian Ning had fired directly passed through the eyes of everyone present and swept over from afar at lightning speed. Chi, chi, chi. A loud sound of light and lightning colliding rang out. In the next second, the bullet that should have pierced through Mo Bufan's head was hit by a bullet that was much faster than the bullet that Jian Ning had fired. At the last moment, it collided with the bullet that Jian Ning had fired. In an instant, the two bullets were neutralized in front of everyone. At this moment, Mo Bufan's eyes suddenly widened. He stared at Yun Jian, who had just saved him with a bullet that did not deviate by half a millimeter. He turned his head and looked over. The shock on Mo Bufan's face was so much that it could not be described with words. At this time, whether it was Mo Bufan, the people from the martial arts club, or Brother Kai, Su Zhenglong, and Wei Jingxian, they all maintained the same dumbfounded action. The bullet and the bullet had neutralized each other. Yun Jian, who had fired the bullet that saved his life, had to be very accurate with her marksmanship. Just as everyone was looking at Yun Jian, they saw Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, smile coldly. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Jian Ning with contempt for 2 seconds. In the next second, she put the silver pistol that had saved Mo Bufan back into her waist and provoked Jian Ning in front of everyone. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2240, page 1/1. She was Jian Ning, the leader of Reverse Emperor. Her opponent was Slaying God. Although some of them did not know Yun Jian's identity, the crowd around them had heard Yun Jian's words and witnessed Yun Jian's shocking marksmanship earlier. Everyone present felt as if a raging fire had surged up in their hearts. It was the feeling of blood boiling. It was just 8 simple words coming out of Yun Jian's mouth, but they made everyone's blood boil. At the same time, everyone was staring at Yun Jian. Their gazes were fixed on Yun Jian as if they wanted to worship Yun Jian to a whole new level. Brother Kai, Su Zhenglong, Wei Jingxian, and the members of the Martial Arts Society were looking at Yun Jian from afar, their blood boiling. Cool. Too cool. Yun Jian was too cool. She was simply their idol. Go for it, President. Go for it, President. We support you. You're the best. Although the members of the Martial Arts Society had no idea what was going on, they were cheering Yun Jian loudly. Every word that came from the bottom of their hearts made all the international bigwigs look at her. When a Slaying God, her international status was so terrifying that just hearing her name would send shivers down one's spine. She killed people without leaving a trace and treated human lives like grass. Yet, she had won the hearts of so many people. If this was in the past, it would have been completely impossible. At the same time, Yun Jian did not hear the cheers of the Martial Arts Society members. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Jian Ning from the side. Oomph, how annoying. Slaying God, I'll kill you. I won't leave any of these noisy people alive. Jian Ning frowned when she heard the members of the Martial Arts Society shouting for Yun Jian. She scanned the crowd with a murderous gaze before her eyes met Yun Jian's. Then let's cut the crap and attack. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she suddenly took out a pair of leather gloves made of special materials from her pocket. In front of everyone, she slowly put the leather gloves on her slender and perfect hands. The leather gloves were something that Qing Yu had recently developed. In the past, Qing Yu was the best at developing poisons. There was no poison that she could not develop as long as it was mentioned. Qing Yu, on the other hand, was obsessed with developing all kinds of weapons. For example, the grenade that killed Tiger last time was one of Qing Yu's products. The leather gloves this time were one of them. And the function of these leather gloves was, then prepare to die. As she watched Yunjian slowly put on the leather gloves on her slender and beautiful hands, Jianning suddenly pulled out a small knife and rushed towards Yunjian. At the same time, she held the knife in her hand, her sharp eyes fiercely searching for the vital point. Yunjian, watch out! Mo Buffon could not help but yell when he saw this. However, the crowd saw that Jianning was already right in front of Yunjian. She was only 3 steps away, and Jianning, including the knife in her hand, would be right in front of Yunjian. Yunjian, on the other hand, was still leisurely toying with her leather gloves. Mo Buffon, Brother Kai, and the other members of the martial arts society felt their hearts clench when they saw this. Even Kai Huiling, who was hiding under the corner of the table, was so shocked that her expression changed drastically. Yunjian was still not on guard. Did she have a death wish? Just as the crowd was thinking about this, Jianning was already holding the knife and thrusting it towards Yunjian's heart. However, just as the blade was 3 centimeters away from Yunjian's heart, the beautiful hand in the leather glove grabbed Jianning's knife, not worried that the sharp blade would cut through the glove and stab her hand. This glove. Jianning gasped in horror when she saw this. The crowd's expression changed when they saw this as well. However, Yunjian smirked coldly at Jianning in front of the crowd. Of course, my gloves are invulnerable. So now, it's my turn to send you to hell. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2241. Yunjian was only wearing a glove. The glove was invulnerable. Recalling Yunjian's every move, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Who was she? Not only did she have a gun, possessing a terrifying spear technique. More importantly, the leather gloves she was wearing were actually impervious to swords and spears. It was such a bizarre glove. Where did she get it from? Just as everyone was stupefied by the thought, Jianning was stunned as well. She stared at Yunjian for 2 seconds before her lips that had curled up in shock earlier calmed down instantly. Invulnerable? Even if you're invulnerable, I'll make sure you die here today. Azure Dragon, Wild Snake, Phoenix, Big Hammer, Soaring Dragon, Iron Rat. Go kill her together. Without slaying God in this world, all of you are no longer a threat. Jianning was really going to repeat the Bloody Night incident. However, she was certain that slaying God would not be the winner of the Bloody Night incident this time. Slaying God would definitely die in this second Bloody Night incident. Jianning called out the code names of over 50 people in one go. At that time, when they heard Jianning shout, the 50 or so people took off their disguises and pretended to be ordinary people from all walks of life. They were old men with beer bellies, bald rich businessmen. This group of people who were originally just ordinary passers-by, after they took off their disguises, they instantly became the most powerful people in the world. Jianning had been prepared for this day. She had gathered the most powerful people in the world, the most powerful people in the assassin and secret agent rankings, and the mythical figures in the international mercenary groups. All of them were gathered here. There were even a few of them whose abilities were on par with the top 20 assassins in the international secret agent rankings during the Bloody Night incident. Perhaps one person's ability was weak. However, when these 50 people were added together, and there were a few whose abilities were on par with the top 20 assassins in the international secret agent rankings during the Bloody Night incident, these people were obviously stronger than the 20 who went against Yunjian during the Bloody Night incident. Jianning guffawed when she saw everyone stepping forward and glaring at Yunjian. She cackled maniacally and stared at Yunjian for a while before saying, "You're right, Yunjian. You're not the only one. Slaying God, I bet you didn't see this coming. After so many years, I will use the Bloody Night incident against you once again. But I won't die in your hands like those idiots from the Bloody Night incident. There are more than 50 of us combined against you. Do you think you're a match for us?" As Jian-Ning spoke, he began to grin once again. When Mo Bufan and everyone present heard this, they were so frightened that they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for Yun Jian. Just when everyone was worried for Yun Jian, they saw that Yun Jian, who should have been frightened, calmly glanced at Jian-Ning. Then, without fear, she said coldly, "Oh, is that so?" After that, Yun Jian paused for a moment. Her lips curled into a beautiful red arc as she smiled contemptuously. "So you want to compete with me? Who has more experts under his command?" Slaying God had been in hiding for so many years that outsiders had no idea how many people she had under her command. In other words, outsiders had no idea how many of the top international figures were Slaying God subordinates. Jian-Ning also thought that other than snake, lizard, tiger, leopard, and a few others, there were not many powerful people under Slaying God. That was why Jian-Ning dared to gather so many people to go against Yun Jian. After all, if Yun Jian did not have many connections under her, the 50 over people had a high chance of winning against Yun Jian alone. However, what did Yun Jian mean by that? Jian-Ning had a bad premonition. Just as Jian-Ning's bad feeling subsided, she saw Yun Jian, who was standing in front of Jian-Ning, smoothing out the red arc on her face in front of everyone. Then, she stood in front of Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, Su Zhenglonghe, Wei Jingxian, the people from the Martial Arts Society, Kai Huiling, Kai Iliang, and the rest. As everyone held their breaths in shock, she looked at Jian-Ning and spoke in a voice as cold as the winter wind. "Tiger, leopard, snake, lizard, demoness, Diana, civet, fox, ghost flame, ghost lotus, Doya, Charlotte, listen to my command, everyone. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website." Chapter 2242. Jian-Ning, who was brimming with confidence, froze when she heard what Yun Jian said. Jian-Ning had gathered more than 50 big shots in the name of Reverse Emperor. Naturally, her ability was top-notch, and each of them held a top-notch position in the world. However, there were only a handful of them who could be ranked first in the world. Other than Doya and Charlotte, who were at the end, the rest of the people she called out were the most powerful figures in the international rankings, especially Tiger, Leopard, Snake, Lizard, Mad Dragon, Qingyu, Diana, Ghost Flame, and Gue Lian. Almost every one of them had the ability to dominate the entire world. Compared to the 50 international figures that Jian-Ning called out, they could easily take on 5 of them at once. These people were on par with the top 20 international secret agent assassins who had dealt with Slaying God during the Bloody Night incident. Snake, Lizard, and the rest were even a few times more powerful than the top 20 international secret agent assassins who had dealt with Slaying God during the Bloody Night incident. With that, the 50 international big shots that Jian-Ning had gathered could be easily dealt with by Yun Jian subordinates. Then, with the addition of Slaying God, who had made a name for herself during the Bloody Night incident, Jian-Ning's expression changed at lightning speed. While her face froze, everyone present, including Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, the people from the Martial Arts Society, Kai Huiling, and Kai Iliang who were hiding under the dining table were all stunned. Jian-Ning's words earlier had already caused Mo Bufan and everyone else present to be shocked and terrified. Jian-Ning had so many subordinates. However, what terrified them even more was Yun Jian had so many subordinates as well. Moreover, judging from the reactions of the people around, Yun Jian's subordinates were not to be trifled with. Other things aside, that demoness, wasn't she the president of Rongyao Company? The president of Rongyao Company, demoness, did not only listen to the president of Rongyao Company. If demoness was Yun Jian's subordinate, then Yun Jian's identity should be... When the surrounding people thought of this, they were so frightened that their bodies trembled slightly, and they were suddenly startled. Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, and everyone from the Martial Arts Society, including Kai Huiling and Kai Iliang, were so frightened that their faces changed drastically. At the same time, Yunjian gave an order, and tiger, leopard, snake, lizard, mad dragon, and the others who had been hiding around the banquet all walked out from their corners. Each of them had their own weapons in their hands. After listening to Yunjian's words, tiger, leopard, and the others walked towards Jianning's group of over 50 people, looking as if they were about to start a massacre. Seeing this scene, Jianning's expression changed greatly. Her pale face suddenly stopped when Tiger, Panther, and the others were about to reach the group of subordinates that Jianning had gathered. Almost at the same time, Jianning's face changed from pale and powerless to a cold smile. "Huh, slaying God. Do you think that's the only trump card I have up my sleeves when I'm here in person today?" Jianning suddenly laughed sinisterly, then turned to look at Yunjian. She wiped the sinister smile off her face and took out a yellow Dao talisman that resembled one drawn by a Taoist priest. Looking at Yunjian, Jianning suddenly stopped laughing. She clicked her tongue and looked at Yunjian with a regretful expression. "All right, slaying God. I won't play along with you now that things have come to this. Do you know what this talisman is?" This talisman contained the spiritual energy of another world of cultivation. Have you heard of Yulong Mainland? Huh, I'm sure you haven't heard of it either. How would an earthling like you know of Yulong Mainland's existence? No matter how powerful you are on Earth, slaying God, you're just an ordinary human. So, let me use Yulong Mainland's spiritual power to send you to heaven now. Jianning suddenly laughed sinisterly again. As she laughed, she suddenly chanted an incantation at the yellow Dao talisman. While the surrounding people were shocked, doubtful, and confused, they saw the yellow talisman in Jianning's hand roll into a big fireball in front of their eyes, as if it was in a fantasy film. It grew bigger and bigger as it rolled. Everyone present could feel the scorching heat of the fireball. Seeing this unimaginable scene, everyone present was shocked to the point that they took a deep breath, and their faces turned pale. "What? Is this a sci-fi film?" Someone exclaimed when he heard this. Jianning's smile widened when she saw this. She was adopted by her godfather since she was young. He came from a place called Yulong Mainland. That was the immortal mainland. This yellow Dao talisman was given to her by her godfather. As long as he had it, slaying God would not be a problem. This was Jianning's real trump card. Just as the fireball grew bigger, Yunjian, who was standing in front of Jianning, suddenly smirked. "Yulong Mainland?" Jianning thought that Yunjian was panicking when she heard Yunjian's words. She laughed sinisterly and continued. "That's right. Ha ha ha. Slaying God. Are you afraid? But it's useless even if you're afraid. Yulong Mainland's spiritual power is enough to destroy you. The most powerful person on Earth." As Jianning spoke, she was about to exert her strength. However, Yunjian's eyes darkened as she stood in front of her. A glint flashed across Yunjian's eyes. In the next second, Jianning saw the Dao talisman that was rolling into a fireball extinguish as if a basin of water had been poured over it. Jianning was stunned when she saw this. Her sinister smile had yet to fade. However, while Jianning was still in shock, and before she could react to what was happening, she saw Yunjian walking slowly toward her. In the next second, Yunjian's voice that was crisp and clear rang in the air. She spoke to Jianning in a manner that made everyone's eyes widen and their jaws drop in bewilderment. Please remember the domain name of this book, the mobile version of the reading website. Chapter 2243. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, a strong gust of wind with her at the center seemed to have turned into many sharp blades, sweeping towards Jianning. Yunjian didn't even move her hand, but the sharp blades were like small knives, sweeping towards Jianning. Jianning, who was still standing at the same spot, widened her eyes, thinking about the meaning of Yunjian's words. The yellow Dao talisman in her hand, which was left behind by her godfather from Yulong Mainland, was instantly turned into nothing by Yunjian's eyes. Combined with what Yunjian said, "You're the ruler of Yulong Mainland, The sorcerer goddess? Why haven't I heard my godfather mention this before? Jian Ning was so scared that her face turned pale and her pupils shrank. She stared at Yin Jian in a daze, shouting these words out loud. However, just as she shouted these words, Jian Ning suddenly felt the sharp blades sweeping towards her in Yun Jian's mind. That gust of wind suddenly turned into sharp blades, giving Jian Ning a feeling that if this gust of wind hit her body, it would be like thousands of blades, piercing her heart with thousands of arrows and killing her on the spot. And that was indeed the case. Yun Jian didn't even raise her hand. She just raised her eyes slightly and used her spiritual power to turn the surrounding air into a gust of wind, turning it into a sharp blade, intending to kill Jian Ning on the spot. She wanted Jian Ning to die under her spiritual power. After 666 days of soaking in the holy spring, Yun Jian found that her spiritual power was no longer restricted on earth. This surprised Yun Jian, but at the same time, she was able to use it with ease. However, at this moment, the sharp blades transformed from spiritual power almost pierced through Jian Ning's entire body and organs, killing her on the spot. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A protective screen popped up around Jian Ning, blocking all the sharp blades that Yun Jian had turned the gust of wind into with a bit of thought. Jian Ning, who thought that she was going to die, was shocked when she saw this. She thought to herself, Godfather is here. At this moment, the shock on everyone's faces was beyond words as they watched the scene unfold before them. Oh my God, wasn't it supposed to be an ordinary evening party tonight? Not only are so many of the most powerful people in the world here, even slaying God is here. What's going on? How did this turn into a sci-fi movie? Fantasy world? Is this still Earth? Oh my God. Everyone watching at this point. Yin Jian Ning's translation, everyone's Ning. Translation. This was beyond what any normal person on Earth could accept. Or it could be said that everything that happened in front of him was not something that an ordinary person could accept. Right then, Jian Ning's godfather, who had blocked the thousands of sharp blades that Yun Jian had conjured with her spiritual power, appeared at the scene. A silhouette flashed across the crowd, and in the next second, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes who looked to be in his 40s appeared before everyone. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes the moment she saw the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was just about to yell at Yun Jian when he stepped out of the crowd. Jian Ning pointed at Yun Jian and complained to the middle-aged man, Godfather, she broke your spiritual power and tried to kill me. Jian Ning did not take Yun Jian's words seriously. However, just as Jian Ning thought that her godfather would avenge her, her godfather's expression changed. Suddenly, her godfather's gaze changed when he saw Yun Jian. He took 2 steps toward Yun Jian and knelt down in front of her. He was so shocked that his expression changed as he spoke loudly and respectfully in front of everyone. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Sorcerer goddess, why are you here? Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2244. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. She had thought that her godfather's appearance would help her get back at Yun Jian mercilessly. However, her godfather knelt before Yun Jian in front of everyone and spoke to Yun Jian in such a respectful tone. Jian Ning's eyes widened. Ning, what have you done? Kneel now. Jian Ning's godfather quickly realized what Jian Ning had done to Yun Jian. He was so shocked that beads of sweat rolled down his forehead as he yelled at Jian Ning. Godfather! Jian Ning wanted to refute. Kneel! Jian Ning's godfather yelled. The shout frightened Jian Ning so much that she knelt before Yun Jian on the spot. Jian Ning was raised by her godfather, and all her skills were taught by him. Even Reverse Emperor was only established 2 years ago with her godfather's help. It could be said that everything Jian Ning had now was given to her by her godfather. Hence, Jian Ning knelt before Yun Jian in front of everyone after her godfather yelled at her. Reverse Emperor's leader, you. Wild Snake and the rest of the 50 men were shocked when they saw this from afar. Was Reverse Emperor's leader, Qin Yu, or Jian Ning, submitting to slaying God? If that was the case, those of them who had worked with Reverse Emperor's leader, Qinyu, to kill Slaying God. It seems like there are more people who don't know their place in the underworld after I went into hiding for a few years, Yun Jian said before Jian Ning could speak when Wild Snake and the rest were shocked. Wild Snake and the rest who were standing afar were so shocked that their hearts skipped a beat when they heard Yun Jian's words. All of them felt suffocated for a moment. Moreover, the 50 men who wanted to join forces with Jian Ning to kill Yun Jian had a bad feeling about this. One must know what kind of person Slaying God, the #1 on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, was. She was an international figure who would seek revenge and repay kindness. Now that even Jian Ning, who was the leader, had submitted to Slaying God, the rest of them, looks like it's time to massacre some restless people. Just as these people were shocked by Yun Jian's words, Yun Jian's voice rang out again. In the next breath, Yun Jian's lips, which had been curled into a sneer, suddenly closed. At this moment, her back was facing Mad Snake's party of 50. The words that had decided the fate of Mad Snake's party spread out in the next second, causing Mad Snake's party to feel even more despair. Snake Lizard, Tiger Leopard, Mad Dragon, kill all of these restless people. Leave no one alive. Mad Snake and the others paled when they heard this. They no longer dared question the authenticity of Yun Jian's words. At this time, these people either turned around and rushed to the party's back door or were prepared to fight Snake Lizard and the others with weapons in their hands. Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, Su Jinglong, Wei Jingxian, and the people from the Martial Arts Society who were hiding in the corner, including Kai Huiling and Kai Yilyang, were shocked when they saw this. In an instant, the originally lively party venue turned into hell on earth. Those who were originally on Jian Ning's side fell one after another. Corpses were scattered all over the venue. Mo Bufan, Kai Huiling, and the others who were hiding under the table were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. Until the last person collapsed, no one on Yun Jian's side fell. It was then that Yun Jian officially met Jian Ning and Jian Ning's godfather's eyes and said mercilessly in front of everyone, "I'm sorry. Now it's your turn." Upon hearing this, Jian Ning's godfather's eyes turned ruthlessly. When Yun Jian suddenly reached out and took out 2 butterfly knives, Yun Jian's godfather suddenly spoke up to stop her. "Wait, Sorcerer God, I have a potion that can allow people from Yulong mainland to come to Earth and use spiritual power without suffering any backlash. I'll give you this prescription. I hope you can let us go." Top reading website, Chapter 2245. Whether it was people from Yulong continent, Wanwan continent, or Shinjo continent, they couldn't use their spiritual power when they came to Earth. Otherwise, they would not be able to make any progress in their cultivation for 100 years. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. According to the rumors, no one had found a way to break it. Of course, Yun Jian had already found a way to break this law. After soaking in the holy spring for 666 days, they could use their spiritual power as they wished on Earth, and there wouldn't be any backlash for not making any progress in their cultivation for 100 years. However, other than Yun Jian and Ce, no one else had been able to enter the holy spring. Therefore, it was impossible to let Lan Su and the others use their spiritual power as they wished on Earth. However, this didn't mean that Yun Jian would give up. She was also looking for a way to let people from the continent use their spiritual power as they wished on Earth. After all, in some aspects, if her people could use their spiritual power on Earth, but that mysterious person's subordinates couldn't, then it would be beneficial for Yun Jian. However, there had never been a way before. Now that Yun Jian's adoptive father stood up and said that he had a potion that could let people from Yulong continent use their spiritual power on Earth without any backlash, Yun Jian was tempted. After receiving the potion from Yun Jian's adoptive father, Yun Jian tested it and confirmed that it was effective. "So, Sorcerer God, can you let us go now? We promise that we won't trouble you again," Yun Jian's adoptive father said to Yun Jian after handing over the bottle of potion and the secret formula. Seeing that Yun Jian still didn't let go, Yunjian's adoptive father raised his finger and promised, "I'm the only one who knows this secret formula. I'm the only one who knows about this secret recipe. Now, I'm telling you about it. You don't have to worry. I won't tell anyone else about it. You're the only one who knew this secret formula?" Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Yes. Yunjian's adoptive father was afraid that Yunjian wouldn't let him leave with Jianning, so he nodded heavily. Yunjian nodded. After a pause, she continued, "Get out of my sight immediately." Yes, yes, yes. Jianning's godfather heaved a sigh of relief. He then dragged Jianning out of the banquet hall. At this time, two people came in from outside the banquet hall. Wasn't the leader of the Blood Dolls, Di Lin, walking at the very front? Di Lin, the leader of the Blood Dolls, was dressed in black. He always wore his black hoodie, and this time was no exception. That fair-skinned face was revealed under the black hoodie. He was so handsome that it was unbelievably handsome. Behind Di Lin was Lung Mei, the Blood Dolls' #1 expert. Lung Mei followed closely behind Di Lin, walking towards Yunjian. It was only when the two of them arrived in front of Yunjian that Lung Mei spoke to Yunjian. "Sister Jian, I, Blood Doll, have wiped out the remaining forces of Reverse Emperor. The organization is just an empty shell now." Yunjian nodded. It was a piece of cake for her to send Blood Doll to wipe out the remaining forces of Reverse Emperor. When they heard that Reverse Emperor was wiped out, all the international bosses around them gasped. In the past 2 years, Reverse Emperor had developed into an assassin organization that was almost on par with the Kosha mercenaries and an Hun group. Slaying God, on the other hand, had only used one banquet to develop Reverse Emperor into an organization that was almost on par with the Kosha mercenaries. In just one night, it was wiped out just like that. While everyone gasped, they saw Yunjian, who stood in front of the crowd, cast a sidelong glance at them. She then turned her gaze to the international bosses, businessmen, and politicians, and spoke again while they were still contemplating her power. "All of you have 2 choices now. 1, die. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. Chapter 2246. They would either die or submit to her. Submitting to her meant completely submitting to slaying God. Therefore, everyone was stunned for a second when they heard Yunjian's words. A second later, everyone made their decision. Unconditional submission. They would be Yunjian's subordinates. The combined ability and international influence of all the international bosses at the gala would be an indescribably powerful backer. Yunjian had massacred so many top international figures and recruited almost all of them under her wing. Then, there would be no one in this world who could rival her. Even so, these people chose to submit to Yunjian unconditionally. It was because Yunjian was none other than Slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. Slaying God, the world's #1 powerhouse who struck fear in people's hearts. After everyone had chosen to submit, Yunjian gestured for Snake, Lizard, Tiger, Leopard, and Snake. Lizard to sign the submission contract with these international bosses. She had come prepared. After everything was settled, Yunjian walked to the gala's entrance with Qin Yu and the rest escorting her. She had no intention of erasing Mo Buffon and the rest's memories, nor did she intend to erase Kai Huiling and the rest's. Especially Kai Huiling, she was not worth spending a 3-hour bottle of amnesia serum to erase her memory. Yunjian walked out the door. Just as Yunjian was about to step out of the door, Mo Buffon and the rest caught up to her. "Yunjian, where are you going?" Mo Buffon asked Yunjian when he caught up with the rest of them. Once he asked, Yunjian only left her silhouette for Mo Buffon to wait. She uttered 2 simple words that were enough to stun Mo Buffon and the rest before walking out the door. Murder. On the smooth roads of River City, Jianning and her godfather had finally left River City's downtown area and arrived at the suburbs. Jianning's godfather brought her to the airport. He wanted to bring her back to Yulong mainland. As long as they returned to Yulong mainland and sought refuge with that lord, they would not have to be afraid of the sorcerer goddess. Otherwise, according to the sorcerer god's character, He would never let them go. At this time, Jianning and Jianning's adoptive father had already arrived at a desolate suburb. Jianning's adoptive father was now spinning the steering wheel in the strong wind and racing at high speed. "Father, where are we going?" Jianning couldn't help but ask when she saw her godfather driving the sports car so anxiously. "Run. Run as far as you can. We have to run." Jianning's foster father was sweating profusely as he focused on driving. However, as soon as their conversation ended, the sports car that Jianning's godfather was driving at a speed dozens of times faster than an ordinary sports car suddenly came to a stop. The car was directly braked by a powerful spiritual force. The two of them were so scared that their faces changed drastically. This was a powerful force. He was definitely above the sorcerer god. Who was it? His spiritual power was far above that of the sorcerer god, and such a character had also come to Earth. Just as the two of them were so frightened that their faces changed drastically, a tall and handsome man suddenly tore open the space in front of the sports car they were in. He directly descended from the air and slowly landed on the ground. Looking at this handsome man who angered both humans and gods, even Jianning couldn't help but be fascinated by him. Jianning's godfather frowned fiercely. He sat in the car and cupped his fists in front of this handsome man who made people forget to breathe. "I don't know how I offended you. I hope you can forgive me. Let me and my daughter leave this place." Jianning's godfather's words made the man who suddenly descended from midair like a god frown slightly. The next second, this handsome man stretched out his hand. A second before he directly used his spiritual power to blast the sports car and the two people in the car into meat paste. He left a cold and mellow sentence that was enough to make people forget to breathe. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2247. As soon as the handsome man spoke, the two people in a sports car were blasted into a puddle of blood along with the car before they could even step out of the car. Not even their bones could be found. They had died on the spot just like that. If an ordinary person was standing here at this moment and saw this inconceivable scene, they would probably cry out in shock. It was a scene that defied all logic. When Yunjin arrived, this was what she saw. The sports car in which Jianning and Jianning's adoptive father were sitting was suddenly left on the spot. The whole car was twisted like a rope. Just looking at it and imagining that there used to be people in the car was enough to make one tremble with fear. What was even more frightening was that the entire body of the sports car had been twisted like a rope and bright red blood was flowing out of it. It looked extremely strange. Jianning and Jianning's godfather were already dead before she could come over. Yunjin narrowed her eyes at the sight. Just as Yunjin was about to go to the deformed sports car to check the bodies of Jianning and her godfather with her squinted eyes, a familiar masculine voice rang behind her. "Xiao Jian." Yunjin's slightly raised brows smoothed out at the sound of the masculine voice. She knew who was responsible for Jianning and her godfather's deaths. After the magnetic voice rang behind her, Yunjin was pulled into a familiar embrace in less than a second. Feeling the warmth of the embrace, she relaxed and turned her back to him. "Did you kill them?" Yunjin asked softly as she leaned against Siyi's chest. At that time, Siyi's hands had slipped from her waist naughtily to latch on her fair and delicate hands as he replied curtly with a smile, "You're right." Yunjin's eyes dimmed at his reply, her red eyes quivering. I wanted to interrogate them to see if they were the mysterious person's subordinates." Yunjin did not think that Jianning's godfather was just an ordinary immortal cultivator from Yulong mainland. That was why Yunjin did not kill Jianning and her godfather at the gala. Yunjin was never one to leave the root of the problem untouched. Whether Jianning and her godfather were truly remorseful or not, Reverse Emperor's existence was a foregone conclusion. And as the leader of Reverse Emperor, Jianning and her adoptive father, who founded Reverse Emperor, had to die. "That man is indeed the mysterious person's subordinate," Ce answered when Yunjin asked in confusion. There was a pause after that before Ce spoke again. Before he died, he said that he could find a mysterious person's hideout in Death Island that leads to thousands of continents. Jianning's godfather had put up a struggle before he died, and in the process, he had revealed a huge secret to CE. In a sea area called Death Island in the Indian Ocean, there was a place that led directly to the hiding place of the mysterious man. Jianning's godfather had revealed this before he died, and CE could tell that he was not lying. This was because when a person who was afraid of death was faced with the fear of death, in order to survive, even if it was a monstrous secret, it was possible for him to reveal it. What was more, Jianning's godfather was not a person who was not afraid of death. This Death Island was located on an island in the Indian Ocean. Why was the island called the Island of Death? It was because the Island of Death was a legendary island. It was said that the Death Island would only appear on the surface of the Indian Ocean at dawn. There would be thick smoke around the Death Island, which looked quite beautiful. Pleasure boats would be attracted by the smoke and sail to the shore of the Death Island. Legend has it that after sailing to the shore of the Death Island, the boats that were attracted to it would no longer be able to find their way back. Until they died, they would be trapped on the Death Island. That was the origin of the name of the Death Island. Of course, it was just a beautiful legend. But later on, someone came forward to prove that the Death Island was real. As early as 20 years ago, there was an old pirate who was drifting in the Indian Ocean with a group of his pirate brothers. According to his recollection, he and his group of pirate brothers accidentally entered Death Island. The old pirate did not say what happened on the Death Island. People only knew that he had been to the Death Island and somehow became the first person to leave the Death Island alive. When he was found, the old pirate kept shaking his head and repeating, "Dead, dead, all dead. Death Island, all dead." Yes, the old pirate was crazy. 20 years ago, this incident caused a stir in the world. Since then, people had a deeper understanding of the Death Island in the Indian Ocean. Yun Jin narrowed her eyes when she heard that they could find the hideout of the Death Island. If Jianning and her godfather were the mysterious person's subordinates, then it would explain why Reverse Emperor was able to deal with the Kosha mercenaries. Everything that had happened in his previous life, including the times when he was the sorcerer god and the times when he was targeted after his rebirth. Yun Jin, was not a person who was willing to defend. The mysterious person had been arrogant for so long, and it was time for her, Yun Jin, to fight back. "You want to go to the Death Island?" Yun Jin looked up and asked me. "Yes," he said in a muffled voice. "I'll go with you," Yun Jin said firmly. After that, she held CE's slender hand and said solemnly, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. If you die, I'll follow you to the afterlife in life and death." Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. Chapter 2248. Before this, they didn't make solemn vows of undying love. They didn't say sweet nothings and swear that they would live a peaceful life together. They didn't even make a vow of loving each other for the rest of their lives. All they said was, "If you live, I'll live with you. If you die, I'll die with you." They would live and die together. Any passionate declaration of love couldn't compare to a sentence like, "If you die, I'll die with you." However, in this world, if there was someone who could live and die with you, then you must cherish him because there was no one else in this world who loved you more than him. Yun Jin did not know how to talk about love, much less say simple words like, "I love you," that could be uttered easily. However, just because she didn't know how to say sweet nothings, it didn't mean that Yun Jin didn't love him. However, her love for CE was from the bottom of her heart. It wasn't a feeling that could be described with just "I love you." It was a love that could make her abandon everything and be ready to go to hell with him at any time. After CE heard Yun Jin's words, he was completely stunned. After being stunned for a while, he didn't say anything else. Instead, he hugged her even tighter from behind. He didn't say anything else. In the end, CE decided to head to Death Island 7 days later. Yun Jin also prepared to go with him 7 days later. Of course, whether or not they could find Death Island that was shrouded in fog all year round was another matter. However, This time, Yun Jian was going with C.E. with the determination to die. For this reason, Yun Jian even took a year off from university. Because of New Cruise's backing, Yun Jian took a year off from school and the university immediately approved. On this day, Yun Jian came out of the principal's office. When she arrived at the school gate, Mo Bufan and the other members of the Martial Arts Society heard the news and all ran to the school gate to send Yun Jian off. Yun Jian, although I don't know why you suddenly took a break from school, I'll keep the position of president of the Martial Arts Society for you, because only you are fit to be the president of the Martial Arts Society. Mo Bufan and the others sent Yun Jian to the school gate. Then, Mo Bufan spoke up and solemnly said these words to Yun Jian. Only you can be the president of the Martial Arts Society. This was the recognition of Yun Jian by everyone in the Martial Arts Society. If I can come back alive, I must personally hear the news of your victory in the martial arts competition. Don't let me down. Yun Jian didn't say anything, only leaving this sentence. This sentence made the members of the martial arts club, who did not know what Yun Jian was going to do, even more worried. But at this moment, no one asked. Yun Jian was not simple. At the same time, Yun Jian also had her own world. Chapter 2249. Yun Jian did not stay long in Xinjiang town. She had gone to Longmen City not long after she was reborn in the town. The person who had studied in Xinjiang town for close to 3 years was not her, but the original owner of her body. However, Yun Jian could still find memories of Yi Qingqing in the original owner's memory. In her memory, this girl named Yi Qingqing was a very ordinary student in Xinjiang town. She was also a good student in the teacher's impression. She usually listened to the teachers obediently and dressed elegantly. She was a typical student with good grades and was a model student in the hearts of the teachers and parents. However, the current Yi Qingqing was a little different from the model student who was obedient and had good grades in the original owner's memory. At that time, Yi Qingqing was wearing a more Western-style clothes. Her upper body was a button-up striped shirt, which was tied on her body, and her lower body was a short black skirt. She looked like a lady from the underworld. This was a stark contrast to the obedient Yi Qingqing, who didn't even dare to speak loudly in school and didn't even dare to stand up when the teacher called her name in class. People changed. No matter how obedient a person was when they were young, they would change if they encountered certain circumstances when they grew up. Compared to the innocent and naive Yi Qingqing in junior high, the current Yi Qingqing looked more charming and mature. There is also an indescribable sense of vicissitudes. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed when she saw Dai Qingqing, but she gave a nonchalant reply. Dai Qingqing grinned at Yun Jian with pursed lips. What a coincidence that we can meet here. There is a hint of vicissitudes and desolation in the smile of an old friend who had met with an unforeseen event. Right. Yun Jian, why are you here? Don't you need to go to school? Dai Qingqing asked after she was done with her question. Yun Jian was supposed to be in her senior year, but she skipped a grade and was now in her first year. After Dai Qingqing asked, Yun Jian replied, I came back for something. She didn't say anything more. After listening to Yun Jian's words, Dai Qingqing didn't feel that it was inappropriate. She smiled at Yun Jian and then began to talk about her own matters in detail. I dropped out of high school and came to Longmen City to work alone. I met my boyfriend at the place where I worked. Dai Qingqing's boyfriend was very good to her. Her boyfriend had taken care of her for 2 years when she was working, taking care of her every need. Later, Dai Qingqing was moved, so she agreed to have a real relationship with him. However, the good times did not last long. 2 days ago, Dai Qingqing and her boyfriend got off work and met a few hooligans. Those hooligans saw that Dai Qingqing was good-looking and wanted to rape Dai Qingqing in front of her boyfriend. In the end, Dai Qingqing's boyfriend accidentally stabbed one of the hooligans to death, thus protecting Dai Qingqing's innocence. At the mention of this, Dai Qingqing's eyes teared up. He went to jail because of me. The court took into account that he didn't kill on purpose and that it was self-defense, so he's going to jail for 10 years. He went to jail because of me. I'll always be by his side. Even if it's 20 years, I'll wait for him to get out. It was only then that Yun Jian noticed the lunchbox in Dai Qingqing's hand. She knew without asking that Dai Qingqing must be here to deliver food to her boyfriend. Yun Jian and Dai Qingqing went to the prison to visit Duan Ling Tian. Dai Qingqing even invited Yun Jian to a nearby milk tea shop for a small gathering after they were done visiting. Yun Jian agreed. The door of Duan Shi's prison opened and Yun Jian walked in. Duan Shi looked much more refreshed than before. After 2 years of not seeing him, Duan Shi, who was no longer drinking, looked more like a human after 2 years of rehabilitation in prison. Yun Jian's sudden entrance startled Duan Shi. He glared at Yun Jian and exclaimed loudly, "Please remember the domain name of this book." Mobile version website. Chapter 2250. Have you forgotten? You'll be released from prison in a few days. I'm here to visit you on behalf of your daughter, Yun Jian said with a cold smirk. She was walking not far away from Duan Shi, separated by a glass. Hearing that he was going to be released, Duan Shi was stunned. Then he suddenly laughed. Without the violent aura he had when he first entered prison, Duan Shi was actually quite decent. Perhaps it was because he did not drink too much these years, but the decadent middle-aged man who used to abuse Duan Li and Duanya had disappeared. After laughing, Duan Shi sighed and shook his head. He finally understood Yun Jian's motive. Hey, if you're here for Duan Li and Duanya, you can go back now. I've turned over a new leaf. After I get out of prison, I won't interfere with their happy lives anymore. I'm not a good father. I've been in prison for 2 years. I've already thought it through. It was my fault back then. I actually did something like domestic violence. Actually, when their mother was still alive, they were my flesh and blood, my sweethearts. Duan Shi was handsome and was a match made in heaven with Duan Li and Duanya's father. Later on, Duan Li and Duanya's mother passed away early, and Duan Shi fell from grace. He became a rich woman's sugar baby. Not only that, he also drank and beat up Duan Li and Duanya. However, after 2 years in prison, Duan Shi finally realized his mistake. He regretted it. At this point, Duan Shi wiped away the tears that were about to fall from his eyes. The wrinkles on his face, which was no longer handsome and had aged features, deepened. These 2 years made me understand a lot of things. After I get out of prison, I won't interfere with their lives anymore. As he spoke, Duan Shi suddenly stood up and bowed deeply to Yun Jian. This was the most sincere gratitude from an incompetent father to Yun Jian after he had repented. If it were not for Yun Jian and the most appropriate education from the police station, he would still not know where he went wrong. Thank you. If I can repay your kindness in this lifetime, I'll do it even if it costs me my life. My 2 children, I hope you can treat them well. Let them forget about this incompetent father and start a new life. These are the last words that Duan Shi said to Yun Jian. After saying this, Yun Jian ended the conversation with Duan Shi. Yun Jian originally came here to confirm if Duan Shi would still find trouble with Duan Li and Duanya after he was released from prison. However, based on Duan Shi's words, it seemed that he would not cause trouble for Duan Li and Duanya anymore. As soon as she walked out, Yun Jian saw Yi Qingqing, who had just come out from visiting her boyfriend. Yun Jian, here. Yi Qingqing waved at Yun Jian and came over, flashing a bitter smile at her before she continued. I'm sorry, Yun Jian. I don't know if we'll have the chance to meet again in the future. Let's go to a nearby milk tea shop and get together. I'm actually already very happy. At least when I miss him, I can come and see him. As she spoke, Yi Qingqing left with Yun Jian and walked toward a milk tea shop not far away. Not long after they walked out of the police station, when they passed by a deserted area, a large group of people suddenly surrounded them from behind. This large group of people looked like hooligans, and each of them was holding something like iron rods and wooden sticks in their hands. After the leader led his men to surround Yi Qingqing and Yun Jian, he shuffled to Yun Jian and Yi Qingqing and blocked Yi Qingqing's path with a haughty look, waving his iron rod and hollering, "What the hell? Good little girl, I finally got the chance to catch you. Umph. Your boyfriend actually dared to kill our brother. Now that you don't have your boyfriend's protection, you're finished. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2251. Enchanting was shocked when she saw the group of hooligans blocking their way. She never thought that not long after she brought Yunjian out of the police station, the group of hooligans who wanted to do something to her a few days ago, and one of them was accidentally killed by her boyfriend, would actually make a comeback. In fact, the police station had given the most severe warning to this group of hooligans, and even detained them for a few days as a warning. However, this group of hooligans didn't hurt anyone after all. After they were released from prison, the more they thought about it, the angrier they felt. Today, this group of hooligans with iron rods and sticks found an opportunity to catch Enchanting and a woman walking in a corner where no one passed by, and quickly rushed over. You, what do you want to do? The police station is nearby. If you dare to mess around, I will. Enchanting hugged her backpack and tried to scare this group of hooligans away with these words. But just as she finished speaking, the hooligan who led the group walked in front of Enchanting with the iron rod. This little gun carried his iron rod and waited, then tilted his head and looked at Enchanting with a sloppy look. That wasn't all. He even held his iron rod and patted Enchanting's cheek with the iron rod, smiling wretchedly. Yo, you're amazing. What if I'm scared? As he said that, the leading hooligan put the iron rod back on his shoulder. He pulled the corner of his mouth and grinned. I'm going to mess with you. I'll mess with you first. At most, I'll stay in prison for a few days. I'll die under a peony flower and be a romantic ghost. Brothers, cover her mouth and drag her to a corner. I want to be the first. I'll F***CK this bitch to death. She actually dared to let me stay in prison for so long. Damn it. Brothers, hurry up and drag this bitch to a corner and take off her pants. All right, didn't you bring a camera today? Shoot. Shoot with all your might. Make her angry. Damn it. The man spat out vulgarities and threw the iron rod in his hand to the ground. He tugged at his belt and looked like he was going to be the first to humiliate Enchanting. When Enchanting saw this scene, she was frightened, but she desperately winked at Yunjian, meaning that Yunjian should quickly escape while these gangsters did not notice her and then call for help. However, contrary to what Enchanting thought, Yunjian didn't run away. Instead, she lazily walked to the side of the gangster and picked up the iron rod that the gangster threw on the ground. The leader of the hooligans was busy unbuckling his belt with a wretched look on his face. Yunjian walked over and picked up the iron rod that had been thrown on the ground. She smashed the head of the hooligan, causing him to see stars. F***CK. Who is it? Do you want to die? Just as the leader of the hooligans said this, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck. It turned out that Yunjian had pressed the iron rod against his throat and looked at him with a sneer. That cold sneer made the hooligan tremble all over and his heart tremble for no reason. Just as the thug's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed, Yunjian's clear voice that was laced with a hint of murderous intent rang abruptly. Her nonchalant and clear words caused the thug and the people standing beside him to quiver in fear. Want to die? Do you know what happened recently in Jiangxing City? Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2252. Page 1/1. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The banquet held under the name of Rongyao Company was a global sensation. It was said that at the banquet, a young lady had faced off against an international assassin organization, Reverse Emperor, as well as over 50 experts gathered by their leader. She had killed all of them without any fear, and at the same time, wiped out the entire Reverse Emperor. No one in the underworld knew who the girl was, but after Reverse Emperor and the 50 international big shots were killed on the spot, the name of the mysterious girl became known to the public. Of course, the group of hooligans had heard of the girl's story as well. When they heard Yunjian's words, their leader was stunned. Who are you? The hooligan who tried to grope Enchanting earlier glared at Yunjian and asked loudly. Yunjian ignored the hooligan's question. She had already put on the invulnerable leather gloves developed by Qing Yu and raised an eyebrow. Seeing Yun Jian put on a pair of genuine leather gloves that she had taken out of nowhere, the delinquent gulped and asked, "What's wrong with you? What? What are you trying to do?" Before the hooligan could finish his question, Yun Jian had already put on the leather gloves, a sharp glint flashing in her eyes. In the next second, as the hooligan's jaws dropped, their mouths forming an O, Yun Jian's hands flashed, and she disappeared. She was so fast that the hooligans could only feel that Yun Jian was holding something that was reflecting a sharp light. By the time the hooligans reacted, Yun Jian, who was holding the sharp object, had already flashed past them. She was so fast that she could not even be compared to the wind. By the time the hooligans reacted, Yun Jian was already in front of them in a flash. Her back was facing the hooligans who were about to do something to enchanting. Her ponytail was tied up high, and she looked spirited, her tight leather top and pants accentuating her perfect figure to the fullest. However, the hooligan's attention was not on her. Instead, Yun Jian's hands that were placed at the seam of her pants were holding two shiny butterfly knives. Where's your hair? Where's your hair?" At this moment, a hooligan standing at the side suddenly saw his brothers. Their hair was dyed in different colors and shaved in different styles. They were all shaved bald. The hooligan shrieked in shock. Shunzi, you're missing your hair too." Another hooligan pointed at the hooligan who was the first to notice. His shriek sent chills down everyone's spine. The hooligans quickly realized that their hair had been shaved bald by Yun Jian with those butterfly knives that were so fast that they could not even be seen clearly. Yun Jian's knife technique just now was actually so fast. The hooligans who realized this were all scared half to death. Imagine if Yun Jian did not just cut their hair, but went a little lower and directly cut off their heads. Go, 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 go quickly. The hooligan who was the leader was so scared that his face turned green. He covered his head and did not even care about unbuckling his belt as he took the lead to run away. In the end, after just 2 steps, his pants loosened and slid down to below his knees. After the pants slid down to below his knees, the hooligan was only wearing a pair of men's underwear in the middle of winter. The hooligan who was the first to say that he wanted to deal with enchanting tripped on his pants and fell to the ground. But he was so scared that he did not care about the pain. After standing up, he continued to run forward madly, looking as if he had eaten dog shit. The rest of the hooligans ran after the one who led the pack. A second before they left the scene, they could even hear Yun Jian's chilling voice coming from behind them. "You're right. You're right. You're wrong. You're wrong. Don't let me see you guys again. Next time, it won't be your hair that I cut, but your heads." Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2253. Just like the hooligans just now, they were scared out of their wits after Yun Jian spoke. Yun Jian kept her butterfly knife and said nothing more. Yi Qingqing could not help exclaiming at the sight. Nevertheless, Yi Qingqing was not too impressed by Yun Jian's skills since she had dealt with Lim Mingyu back in Xinjiang Town Junior High School. Yi Qingqing, on the other hand, was deeply grateful to Yun Jian. After a short gathering at a nearby milk tea shop, Yun Jian went home and packed her luggage. She had agreed to meet Ce 7 days later, but before that, Yun Jian had to go somewhere. "Xiao Jian, you're going on a long trip again?" Qin Yiru could not help asking when she saw Yun Jian leaving the house with her backpack. Mom. Yun Jian nodded. She did not say anything else. If Qin Yiru knew that her trip was extremely dangerous, Qin Yiru would definitely be worried. She might as well not say anything. Be careful then. After learning about Yun Jian's identity as Slaying God, Qin Yiru did not restrain Yun Jian's actions anymore. When she heard Yun Jian's words, she said nothing more. Yun Jian nodded and left the house. After leaving home, Yun Jian went straight to the airport and headed to Country S. Before she went out to sea to search for Death Island, she had something important to do. She had to confront the old pirate who was the only one who had been to Death Island back then. At the same time, in Deity Continent, it had been a few days since Gu Ninji came to Deity Continent with Li Nong. Deity Continent was huge. Gun Yinji had not seen anyone from Deity Continent even after wandering aimlessly for 3 days. At this moment, Gun Yinji reached out to wipe the sweat on her forehead. She walked and stopped to ask Li Nong with a frown, "I've been gone for so long, but I haven't even seen half of the deities of your God's continent. You're not trying to lead me astray, are you?" "The gods of the God's continent rarely go out," Li Nong said in a serious manner. If Huang Yin was here, he would probably roll his eyes at Li Nong. What the gods of God continent liked to do the most was to gather a large group of people together and compete with each other to see who was stronger. Li Nong had indeed deliberately led Gun Yinji to a place with fewer people. "Are you serious? Then where is your home? Hurry up and take me to your place to rest." Gun Yinji was about to throw up. At first, in order to come to the God's continent, she had even let Li Nong touch her, and take advantage of her. Just thinking about it made Gun Yinji regret it. He thought that there was something fun and delicious on the God's continent, but it turned out to be, "Hey, why don't you send me back? I don't want to stay on the God's continent anymore. It's not fun here. It's better to stay with Qingyu." Gun Yinji was holding a weed that she had pulled out from somewhere. She pouted and swung the weed in her hand, walking like she would collapse on the ground from exhaustion at any moment. Li Nong said that one could not fly on the God's continent, or else there would be serious consequences. Gun Yinji really walked behind Li Nong for 3 days and 3 nights, but they still could not get out of this godforsaken place. At this moment, both of them were walking in a boundless forest. Gun Yinji walked forward unsteadily, sighing. However, just as Gun Yinji lowered her head aimlessly, swinging the weed in her hand and walking forward lazily with a pout, she bumped into Li Nong, who had suddenly stopped walking in front of her. Gun Yinji pounced on him, and Li Nong did not seem to be prepared to defend himself at all. Therefore, Gun Yinji's pounce directly pushed Li Nong to the ground. At the same time, Li Nong turned around and fell on his back. Gun Yinji did not see that Li Nong's lips curled up the moment he fell. "Ouch!" Gun Yinji cried out in pain and fell to the ground. When Gun Yinji came to her senses, she suddenly realized to her horror that Li Nong's hand was wretchedly grabbing her, but he even pinched it. It looked like he was doing it on purpose. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2254. By the time Gun Yinji reacted, she was so frightened that she screamed and stood up. She protected her chest tightly and glared at Li Nong with bulging eyes. She bared her teeth and said to Li Nong, "Li Nong, you did it on purpose. It's not that there's no one at all. You did it on purpose. I want to go back to Earth." She should have known that a normal person wouldn't ask to touch her, but before bringing her to the divine continent. Gun Yinji instantly realized that Li Nong was most likely trying to take advantage of her. He was the kind of habitual offender who took advantage of girls. Pervert. Unexpectedly, after Li Nong stood up calmly, there was no change in expression on his serious face. He put his hands in his trouser pockets, and he didn't panic or fear when Gun Yinji discovered his intentions. He simply turned his handsome face to Gun Yinji and suddenly said, "You're right. This is the first time I brought a girl back to the divine continent, so you can't leave. I've taken a liking to you, so you can't leave." On the other side, Yun Jian had already arrived in S country. S country was a developing country in China. The infrastructure of the city was poor, and the facilities of the 3-star hotels were relatively old. S country's economy was mainly based on agriculture, and the country's most important export product was Ceylon black tea. The country was also one of the 3 largest tea-producing countries in the world, so the domestic economy was deeply affected by the tea production situation. Of course, there were also some people in S country who relied on fishing for a living. S country was a country on the Indian Ocean plate, and the only old pirate who had been to the Death Island was from S country. The old pirate was now living in a mental hospital. Because he had suffered a great shock back then, he had become crazy. There were many adventurous people in the world who went to the legendary Death Island from S country, but most of them returned empty-handed. Generally, Adventurous people who wanted to explore the Death Island would come to this mental hospital to ask the old pirate for information about the Death Island. Even if no one got any information about the other Death Islands from the old pirate, there were still adventurous people who came to this mental hospital to visit the old pirate and communicate with him, trying to get more information about the Death Island from the old pirate. After Yunjian got off the taxi, she simply carried a decent backpack and went to the mental hospital. She looked up slightly, and a dark light flashed in her eyes. In the next second, she walked into the mental hospital. Although this mental hospital was big, there were many people who came to visit the old pirate every day. So Yunjian quickly walked in the direction with the most people and came to the mental hospital, the old pirate's ward. As expected, the old pirate's ward was filled with people. Even though 20 years had passed, and the old pirate was already a little old man with white hair and beard, many people who loved adventure and excitement still insisted on coming here every day, trying to inquire about the mysterious Death Island from the old pirate. As soon as Yunjian entered the room, she saw a little old man with white hair and a long beard. His eyes were dull as he sat on the bed in a daze. His whole body seemed to have been stimulated by something. Like a chick pecking at rice, his body trembled. From the looks of it, he seemed to be in a state of epilepsy. The old pirate's full name was Horace. Horace was the short name of the old pirate. At this moment, Horace was surrounded by people. The one who was half kneeling in front of Horace and asking about his well-being was a blonde woman in her 20s. The blonde woman was greeting Horace in fluent S-Nations language. She wanted to get closer to Horace before she could get more information from him. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 2255. Shui Shui. I want Shui Shui. Shui Shui that's like milk. At this moment, Horace's body was trembling as he spoke in a trembling voice. His pronunciation wasn't accurate at all, as he spoke those words with a trembling voice. The blonde woman who was half kneeling in front of Horace gave her companions a look. When the blonde woman's friends saw this, they quickly rushed to pass the water to the blonde woman, and the blonde woman passed the water to Horace. Come, this is water. Be careful not to burn it. Drink slowly, old man. The blonde woman handed the water to Horace and patted him on the back. The blonde woman's group wasn't the only one present. There were many people standing by the side. Some were holding fruits. Some were giving all sorts of delicious gifts to the old pirate Horace and saying all sorts of flattering words. Everyone's goal was simple and clear, and that was to gain the trust of the old pirate Horace, who had already gone mad, and get all the information about the Death Island from him. After receiving the water, Horace stared blankly at a certain spot on the floor. After receiving the blonde woman's hand, he didn't even look at it as he put the skull into his mouth with trembling hands. The way he drank the water was no different from a baby who was eating for the first time. Old man, drink slowly. Don't choke. The blonde woman patted Horace's back as if she were his own granddaughter. She spoke to Horace in a caring tone. Eva, are you done? Get up quickly. It's our turn. The other group of people who were standing by the side saw the blonde woman talking to Horace for so long and urged her to hurry up. Eva was probably the name of the blonde woman in her 20s. The name Eva matched the blonde woman's appearance. Yunjian could see from the side of the blonde woman's face that her long face resembled a Barbie doll and was more tender. There were many people here who wanted to build a good relationship with Horace and force him to tell them the information about the Death Island. There were also many people who came here every day to serve Horace with good food and drink, trying to gain the trust of the crazy Horace so that Horace would tell them the secrets of Death Island. The blonde woman named Eva, as well as the group of people beside her, were all here for the same reason. What are you rushing me for? I'll be right there. Eva turned her head to look at the people who were urging her. She immediately roared at them in a low voice, completely different from the gentle tone she used to speak to Horace. She then turned to Horace and asked, "Is there anything else you need, sir?" Eva wanted to establish a good relationship with Horace so that he would tell her everything about the Island of Death. But just as Eva finished speaking to Horace with a smile, she suddenly saw a gorgeous girl from Z Country walk in from the main entrance. She was so beautiful that no one could take their eyes off her. After stepping through the door, she went straight to Horace and looked at him coldly. She said bluntly to him, "What's wrong with you? You've been pretending to be crazy for 20 years. Even the mental hospital thinks that you're crazy. Mr. Horace, you're really something." The person who came was none other than Yunjian. Once her words rang, everyone around her was stunned, especially Eva, who had been flattering Horace all this time. Eva's expression froze for a moment. After a moment of shock, she immediately realized what Yunjian meant. And Yunjian said this after she had flattered Horace. Was she trying to make all her previous efforts go down the drain? Eva bared her teeth at Yunjian and said angrily, "Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website." Chapter 2256. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Horace looked at Yunjian from the corner of his eyes in shock, a flashing across his eyes. Horace, who had been mentally retarded before, now looked just like a normal person, no matter if it was his face or his expression. Eva, who thought that Yunjian was spouting nonsense, was taken aback by the abrupt change in her expression. Everyone in the mental hospital's ward, including Eva's team members and the group of people who urged Eva to hurry up, were all stunned on the spot. Mr. Horace, just like what Yunjian said, he's not really crazy, but pretending to be crazy. After all, there were countless international medical experts who claimed to be world-class doctors. After diagnosing Horace, they all concluded that Horace had really gone crazy after returning from the island of death. After those international medical experts and world-class doctors had confirmed that Horace was really crazy, no one questioned whether Horace was really crazy or just faking it. Everyone thought that Horace was crazy and tried to trick him, trying to get information about the Death Island from him. Until today, when Yunjian pointed it out in front of everyone. When he pointed out that even the international medical experts and doctors could not tell that Horace was pretending to be crazy, everyone present was in an uproar. Not only that, even Horace himself was shocked. He had been pretending to be crazy for 20 years. He thought that no one would be able to see through him in this lifetime, but he didn't expect that a young girl who looked like she was just 18 years old would be able to see through him in a single glance. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. They couldn't accept the sudden turn of events. At that moment, Yunjian smiled coldly. She looked at Horace from the side. Under the gaze of Horace and everyone else, she replied to Horace with simple but arrogant words. "Your eyes are different from those of a real crazy person. I could tell that you're faking it. As for those who claim to be world-class doctors, they're arrogant and pedantic. Naturally, they won't be able to tell that you're pretending to be crazy." After that, Yunjian went to Horace and sat down on a stool beside his bed. Squinting her eyes, she looked at Horace lazily from the corner of her eyes and spoke at the same time. "So, you should tell us about the Death Island." After Yunjian finished speaking, even Eva, who was insulting Yunjian, shut her mouth and listened to Horace's reply. There was no doubt that the group of people present, including Eva, were all adventurous people. The Death Island was a terrifying place. Just hearing about it was enough to frighten anyone, but it was this place that made the adventurous people want to explore it. Therefore, after Yunjian's question, everyone perked up their ears. Sigh. After Yunjian's question, Horace sighed heavily. Under everyone's gaze, Horace shook his head and slowly said, "The Death Island is very dangerous. Death Island is extremely dangerous. Back then, I almost died here with my friends. After that, I risked my life to escape from Death Island. I pretended to be crazy just to prevent adventurers from going to Death Island and losing their lives in vain. So listen to my advice. Don't go to the Death Island." That was why the old pirate Horace pretended to be crazy for more than 20 years. He didn't want those adventurous people to lose their lives in the Death Island. Everyone in the room sighed deeply. Then, just when everyone took a deep breath and was hesitating if they should ask the old pirate Horace about the Death Island, a clear and pleasant female voice spoke again in front of Horace and everyone else. "So, you're planning to let your old friends die in vain on the Death Island. You don't want to remember the past and find a chance to avenge them? Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2257. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. When Yunjian finished her words, Eva and the others were stunned. What revenge? Could it be that when Mr. Horace and his friends accidentally entered Death Island, Mr. Horace and his friends lost their lives on Death Island? Because of someone? Eva was the first to react. She was stunned for a moment, and she was shocked. As soon as she said this, Eva suddenly felt that something was wrong. No, Mr. Horace has been pretending to be a fool for 20 years. He shouldn't have told anyone about what happened on Death Island. How did you know? You're saying that Mr. Horace's friends died on Death Island? Revenge. Don't tell me you know what happened to Mr. Horace and his friends on Death Island. Compared to when she didn't trust Yunjian in the beginning, Eva's tone towards Yunjian had changed. However, since she couldn't explain it, Eva still questioned Yunjian. Don't tell me Yunjian knows what happened to Horace and his friends on Death Island? If she's so powerful, she could just go to Death Island herself. Why would she ask Horace? Just when Eva thought that Yunjian was spouting nonsense, she saw Horace's expression change again. Then, Horace's expression darkened. He looked at Yunjian and said in shock, I've never told anyone about this. I've never mentioned this to anyone. How do you know that my friends were killed by living people? Everyone saw Horace's astonishment. Hearing this, Eva and the people standing beside her were all shocked and dazed for a moment. Don't tell me she's right. You don't need to know how I know. You just need to tell me. Do you want revenge? Yunjian pressed her lips together and asked Horace nonchalantly amidst the shocked gazes of the people around her. With that, Horace nodded without hesitation. Of course. Horace clenched his fists as if he recalled something that made him grit his teeth. He was so angry that every cell in his body was trembling. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people became even more suspicious. How did this girl, who was about 18 years old, know about everything that happened to Horace on Death Island? Before they could think further, Yunjian's lips curled and she spoke again. Then tell me how to get to Death Island. As thanks, I'll avenge you. Yunjian wasn't a good person. Her goal was simple. Just like everyone else, she wanted to know how to get to Death Island. Many times, if you were to ask someone for help, it would be easier and more effective to grasp the other party's heart than to give him or her 100 gifts. Yunjian was right. Yunjian was right. Horace was truly moved. Can you really avenge me? It had been 20 years, but he still couldn't forget what happened on Death Island. However, he had to force himself to forget the series of events that happened on Death Island. It wasn't that Horace didn't want to avenge himself, but he didn't have the strength to do so. Just as Horace said that, Yunjian's lips curled as she spoke to Horace solemnly in front of everyone, shocking them with her words. In the name of the medical world's hand of death, I solemnly swear to you that as long as you tell me where to go to Death Island, I'll avenge you. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2258. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Although Yunjian wasn't a good person, she had never once made a promise to anyone. You're the hand of death. Just as Yunjian's words left her mouth, Eva and the group of people beside her were all shocked as they screamed out in shock. The hand of death of the medical world. No wonder you could tell that I was acting crazy. So you're the hand of death of the medical world. The legendary hand of the Grim Reaper that can even save the dead and bring them back to life. When Horace heard Yunjian's words, he was so shocked that his face changed. As he looked at Yunjian with disbelief, his pupils constricted, his back straightened, as he was filled with fear. So, this little girl who looks like she just came of age is actually the internationally renowned Hand of Death. Oh my God, what's wrong with this world? Is this a fantasy? One of the foreign lads in Eva's team, who was in his 20s with chestnut-colored hair, grabbed his head as he looked at Yunjian in shock, as he screamed out in shock. This foreign lad with chestnut-colored hair was in the same team as Eva, and his name was Jiawei. Jiawei's looks were considered extremely handsome in the eyes of the foreigners. When Jiawei heard Yunjian's words, he was so shocked that his face changed, as though he didn't believe Yunjian's words at all. After all, Yunjian was only 18 years old, and her looks were extremely youthful, and she was prettier than any other girl of her age. Such a beautiful girl would only make others think that she was a university student, an ordinary girl full of youthful energy. But who could tell them that she was actually the internationally renowned Hand of Death, the one who could save lives from the hands of the Grim Reaper, the strongest woman in the medical world? Whether it was the medical world or the underworld, there was no one who didn't know of her, and such an existence was actually just a young girl. Even so, no one present did not believe Yunjian's words. When everyone came to their senses, Horace took the lead and spoke calmly to Yunjian. I believe you. I'll tell you how to get to Death Island. 20 years ago, Horace was still a wandering pirate sailing the seas with his old friends. Once when they were at sea, they accidentally picked up a bottle. That bottle was very strange. Not only did it contain a small piece of paper, it also contained a sky blue necklace. That sky blue necklace was very beautiful, so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. It was also very strange. There was only one simple sentence written on the small note. Holding the necklace in his hand, he boarded the boat and entered Death Island. That necklace is the key to leading us to the Death Island. Although it's very mystical, as long as you can find that necklace and go out to sea, the necklace will lead you to the Death Island. As Horace spoke, he frowned slightly, as if he was recalling a terrifying incident. He clutched his head with both hands. You know where the necklace is. This sentence, Yunjian did not use a question, but statement. Hearing Yunjian's words, Horace frowned slightly. In the next second, Horace loosened his frown. He smoothed out his wrinkled brows and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he continued to speak. Yes, it's in France's Paris Museum. If you want to go to Death Island, you must obtain it. Speaking until here, Horace pondered for 2 seconds and suggested to everyone. With your abilities, you shouldn't be able to retrieve that sky blue necklace from France's Paris Museum. France's Paris Museum of Natural History is heavily guarded. If an ordinary person wants to steal the necklace, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Perhaps you can use your computer to enter the page of an international assassin website and place a bounty on that international assassin website to request the help of an international assassin. Top reading website. Chapter 2259. As an ordinary person, Horace put himself in the shoes of Yunjian, Eva, and Jay. The sky blue necklace was now hidden in the Paris Museum of France as a valuable antique. It was one of the most important antiques in the Paris Museum of France. There were many people who went to the Paris Museum of France every day to look at the collection, but there was only one way to take the sky blue necklace out of the Paris Museum of France, and that was to steal it. Stealing was not a kind thing, but there were times when it had to be done, just like now. The sky blue necklace was the only way the old pirate Horace knew to lead them to the Island of Death. Of course, Horace knew that Yunjian was the Hand of Death in the medical world, but he didn't think that Yunjian was that strong. After all, as a doctor, it was her duty to heal the wounded and save the dying. A mission like stealing the sky blue necklace was something that Yunjian couldn't do. As an international figure, if you wanted to assassinate or get something, you could log into the Secret Agent Killer website. The Secret Agent Killer website allowed the employer to post a mission. Once the employer posted a mission, the Secret Agent Killer would see the mission and accept it. Under normal circumstances, as long as the employer paid the price, the Secret Agent Killer would accept the mission. Therefore, if you needed something and you were rich but didn't have the strength, you could log into the Secret Agent Killer website and achieve your goal. Are we going to ask the Secret Agent Killer to help us steal the sky blue necklace? Why don't we just ask the International Thief Organization to help us steal it? Jay, who was standing next to Eva, said as he stroked his chestnut-colored short hair. International Thief Organization? Is it the internationally famous fox hunting organization? We don't know how to get to know them. How do we find the godly thief of the fox hunting organization? Someone frowned and asked. Don't worry. I know them. Leave it to me. Jay was waiting for the person next to him to ask this question. When he heard it, he stroked his short hair again and raised his head proudly. Jay was only in his 20s, and it wasn't strange for a young man like him to be a little arrogant. Yin Jian didn't stop him. Everyone agreed. Jie Wei took out his phone and dialed a number. As soon as the call connected, Jie Wei couldn't help but say, It's me. I'm Jay. Hey, brother, does your fox hunting organization have any godly thieves who could take on the task of stealing a sky blue necklace from the Paris Museum in France? After saying that, Jie Wei raised his head and looked at everyone. At that moment, the person on the other end of the phone seemed to have said something to Jie Wei. Huh? Someone has already hired a thief from the fox hunting organization to steal that necklace? In the next second, Jie Wei's expression changed drastically. 10 seconds later, Jay hung up the phone and said to everyone with a dejected expression, I'm sorry. That sky blue necklace has already been stolen by someone who hired a first-class thief from the fox hunting organization. If we want to get that necklace, we'll have to hire one of the top 10 Secret Service assassins in the world to have a chance of competing for it. But the top 10 Secret Service assassins on the International Secret Service assassin list, how can they be hired so easily? I think this sky blue necklace. Sigh, we won't be able to get it. Hearing Jie Wei's words, everyone was depressed. The top 10 Secret Service assassins on the International Secret Service assassin list. How could it be so easy to hire them? They originally wanted to hire a high-level Secret Service assassin, but now someone actually hired a first-class thief from the fox hunting organization to steal that necklace. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2260, page 1/1. The Fox Hunting Organization was an international organization of thieves. Compared to the kosher mercenaries and the Hun organization, the Fox Hunting Organization only accepted theft missions. Moreover, the Fox Hunting Organization had a success rate of 90%. This was a very amazing success rate. With such a high success rate, it could even be compared to the top 10 international Secret Service assassins. Of course, the Fox Hunting Organization was only good at stealing. As for some protection and assassination missions, the thieves of the Fox Hunting Organization would not accept them. The godly thieves in the Fox Hunting Organization were also divided into different levels. The Fox Hunting Organization divided the godly thieves into 6 levels. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, Level 4, Level 5, and Level 6. Level 1 Godly Thief was the strongest godly thief in the Fox Hunting Organization. There were only 10 people in the Fox Hunting Organization who could be listed as the strongest godly thief in the organization. At that time, Peter was a Level 1 godly thief in the Fox Hunting Organization. Therefore, a talent like Peter signed a 10-year contract with the Fox Hunting Organization. If Yin Jian did not appear, the Fox Hunting Organization would definitely not agree to let him go. Now that Peter had left the Fox Hunting Organization, the number of Level 1 godly thieves in the Fox Hunting Organization had increased to 9. Although there were only 9 Level 1 godly thieves in the Fox Hunting Organization, each of them was a world-class godly thief. Their standard of stealing was indescribable. It was rumored in the underworld that if the Level 1 godly thief of the Fox Hunting Organization were to take action, only those who hired the top 10 International Secret Service assassins would have a chance to compete with him. Take note, there is only this possibility to fight for it. After all, the Level 1 godly thief of the Fox Hunting Organization specialized in this line of work. His ability to steal was so good that even the top 10 assassins on the International Secret Service assassin list might not be a match for him. Unless slaying God, the number 1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking, was involved. Of course, how could that be possible? Therefore, when Yun Jian said those words, it was easy to imagine how shocked everyone was. A mere level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization? The level 1 godly thief of the fox hunting organization. Only those in the top 10 on the International Secret Service assassin list could match up to him. Although you're the hand of death, you're just a doctor. Don't tell me you have the strength to fight against the level 1 godly thief of the fox hunting organization. The one who spoke was Jiawei. Jiawei was proud to know the godly thief of the fox hunting organization. Now that he heard Yunjian's words, he felt a little displeased. Even if she was the hand of death, no matter how powerful she was, wasn't she still just a scalpel? Could it be that he was strong enough to fight against the fox hunting organization and the godly thief? Jiawei is right. You may be the hand of death, but you don't have the ability to fight against a level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization. If we can't get one of the top 10 international assassins to help us, we can forget about getting this sky blue necklace. If we rob the sky blue necklace from the Paris Museum of Country F by ourselves, we might not even be able to enter the Paris Museum of Country F. That's right, Zhang Lixing said. After hearing Jay's words, Eva also stood up and said something. As they spoke, Eva expressed her disapproval of Yunjian as well. The old pirate Horace shook his head. He knew that this plan would not work. When Horace was about to persuade Yunjian to give up on going to Death Island, he suddenly saw Yunjian lift up the corner of her long shirt. Without even looking, she coldly took out an M1911 pistol from her waist. Her other hand took out a few bullets and skillfully loaded them in front of everyone. In just 3 seconds, Yunjian had completed the series of actions with ease before she pointed the gun at Jiawei. As everyone looked at her in shock, she spoke with a smirk. "You're right, Jiawei. A doctor can also kill. Since I have my eyes on this necklace, no one in this world can get it before me, unless that person is a dead person." Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 2261. Lin Wei had wanted to give Yiling more time to accept everything, but it seemed like there was no need for that now. It was late at night. Yiling's moans only stopped when dawn came. This was a world that only belonged to the two of them. With you and me, there was no room for a third person. Near the temple fair, Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju, Duan Yi, and Duan Yi to buy a lot of their favorite snacks, much to the delight of Xiao Yunju and his friends. "Jia is the best," Xiao Yunju exclaimed as he munched on a sugar-coated hawthorn. 10 seconds later, however, when Si bought a big bag of lollipops for Xiao Yunju, Duan Yi, and Duan Yi, Xiao Yunju corrected himself. Si Gij is the best. Si Gij is the best in the world. Yunjian was rendered speechless. Suddenly, Duan Li pointed at a group of children who were about the same age as Xiao Yunju and Duan Li and told Xiao Yunju, "Xiao Zhu, look, those are our classmates. It's them." Xiao Yunju's eyes lit up at Duan Li's words. In the next second, he went to Yunjian with a bag of lollipops and pushed Yunjian gently into Si Yi's arms. "Si Gij, we're taking the lollipops. We're going to play with our classmates. Jia will give them to you." As he spoke, Yunju dragged Duan Li and Duan Yi away. Yunjian, on the other hand, blushed when Xiao Yunju pulled her into Si Yi's arms. Si Yi's lips curled up at that. He held Yunjian's hand smoothly and pulled Yunjian's back against his chest, placing her hand somewhere indescribable. Then, he bent down and pressed his head against her hair, taking a whiff of its fragrance, and said suddenly, "Xiao Jian, you smell so good." Yunjian's cheeks became slightly moist when she heard that. "The fireworks show has begun. Those who came to see the fireworks, hurry to the bridgehead in front to see the fireworks." You can see the fireworks from the bridgehead in front. The big boss spent 200,000 yuan to donate the fireworks event, and it only lasted for half an hour. "Everyone, hurry up. This is a rare opportunity." Someone walked out and called out to the crowd. For a moment, everyone rushed to the bridgehead that the man had mentioned. Xiao Yunju was only a little over 10 years old, but Xiao Yunju and the other two were already very independent. Moreover, Xiao Yunju and the other two had their hands stuffed in their pockets. If there was anything, they would call Yun Jian, so Yun Jian was not worried about them. Once Ce heard that the fireworks were going off, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked toward the bridgehead that the man had mentioned. When they came to the bridgehead, there were people standing around it. It was 6 o'clock. Creak bong, bong, bong. At this time, the sound of fireworks was heard, and it lasted for half an hour. Yun Jian squinted at the fireworks in the sky, her thoughts drifting far away. In her previous life, she had never dreamed that she would be able to return to a normal life one day. The ultimate outcome of underground assassins and secret agents was death without exception. The only difference was whether they died earlier or later. She was also prepared to die. What she did not expect was that she was reborn because of the sandalwood box. She even met him, the love of her life, the lover that she could give up everything for. She had thought that her life was just like the fireworks, that would only last for a brief moment. When the fireworks bloomed, it was so beautiful that it was breathtaking. But after a few seconds, when the fireworks burned out, there was no more. It went back with the wind, amazed the world with a single brilliant feat, and then left the world silently. Just like her previous life, she could not see the future. But after her rebirth, everything was different. Even at the end of the world, there would be different fireworks. She, Yun Jian, would protect all that she had obtained with great difficulty, even if she had to die. The existence of the mysterious man made Yun Jian panic, and it would affect the people she cared about. But when had she, Yun Jian, ever been afraid? What was more, she had obtained all of this with great difficulty. How could she not dare to move forward because of a mysterious man? Yun Jian would kill whoever stood in her way, no matter if it was a god or a demon. When the fireworks show ended, everyone was almost gone. The bridge, which had been bustling with noise and excitement, was now deserted. Under the bridge where no one could see, Ce put his slender arm behind Yun Jian's head as a pillow. His handsome lips tightly grasped the little mouth that made him want to touch her all the time. Yun Jian also put her arms around Ce's neck and responded to his kiss. Just when the two were kissing and forgot about each other. An Annie who was sweeping the floor near the bridge suddenly saw the duo under the bridge. She looked like she had seen something terrifying as she sprung up in shock and pointed at the duo, shouting for help around her. You're right. You're right. You're right. Oh my God, they're acting like hooligans in broad daylight. Come on. Come on. There's a wretched man who is going to rape the little girl. Hey. Chapter 2262. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. When Yun Jian walked out of Horace's ward, Jie Wei was unwilling to give up. Coupled with Eva and his teammates' urging, he tried to contact another level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization that he would not contact unless it was absolutely necessary. That level 1 godly thief owed Jie Wei's father a favor. That was why Jie Wei contacted that level 1 godly thief to ask him to return a favor. Logically speaking, since the other level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization had accepted the task of stealing the sky blue necklace, the other level 1 godly thieves from the fox hunting organization were not supposed to steal from their own members. However, the level 1 godly thief that Jie Wei contacted happened to owe Jie Wei's father a huge favor. Since Jie Wei begged him, that level 1 godly thief could not refuse him. That was why he agreed to Jie Wei's request, even if he had to steal from another member of the fox hunting organization. However, to Yun Jian, it was equivalent to fighting with 2 other level 1 godly thieves from the fox hunting organization for the sky blue necklace. The reason why Jie Wei was so smug was because he had invited another level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization. Furthermore, that level 1 godly thief owed his father a favor. With that, he had the highest chance of getting the sky blue necklace. That was why Jie Wei came to Yun Jian to show off in front of her. He wanted to take revenge for the time when Yun Jian pointed her gun at his head. Jie Wei thought that since Yun Jian had reacted quickly to his actions in Horace's ward, she would definitely retaliate. However, Yun Jian only gave him a look of disdain. She then gestured to the godly thief and the others and walked towards the entrance of the mental asylum. The moment they stepped out of the mental asylum, one of the godly thief's companions, who was around 23 or 24 years old, commented on Jiawei's actions. He's just like a child who never grows up. As she spoke, the woman, who was around 23 or 24 years old, shook her head. Nice to meet you, young lady. It's time for me to introduce myself. I'm Calvin from Germany. I'm 32 years old this year. These are my companions. The godly thief extended his hand towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian. She did not extend her hand and simply stated her name in English. The godly thief did not think that Yun Jian's godly thief translation. After all, different countries were different. It was normal for people from different countries to not like to extend their hands to show goodwill when they met. Ella, my name. The godly thief, the godly thieves, the godly thief. The thief, and the thief and boy thief, the godly thief, and was the thief. Thief is translation, then the thief and the thief. Cav's translation is goggedly. Translation. How translation to translation in. They didn't talk much and arrived at the Paris Museum in France as quickly as possible. The night of the stars, either night. At 3 in dawn, Yun Jian and Calvin arrived at the Paris Museum in France. As soon as he arrived at the Paris Museum in France, he saw a group of people using computers to connect a line and fiddling with something at the entrance of the museum. Looking closely, wasn't this group of people led by Jay and Eva? Among the group of people led by Jay and Eva, there was a very muscular man. Needless to say, this robust man must be a level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization. This group of people was using a computer to connect to the Paris Museum in France. They were using the computer to operate something. Their purpose was obvious. They were trying to cut off all the power gates in the Paris Museum. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2263. It was the Paris Museum in Country F. A museum with Paris, as its name meant that it was protected by Country F. There were a lot of cultural relics in the museum, so there were a lot of tourists and many staff members in the museum during the day. At night, when the staff members were asleep, there would be a lot of people patrolling the museum, but there weren't many of them. That was because there were cameras installed everywhere in the Paris Museum. Not to mention the cultural relics. Even the blind spots of the entrance were installed with cameras. Not even a fly was allowed to fly past the surveillance range of the cameras. The cultural relics in the museum were also illuminated by invisible infrared rays. The infrared rays were invisible to the naked eye, but once someone passed through and was illuminated by the infrared rays would send out a loud alarm. With that, everyone woke up. The Paris Museum was a very dangerous place. The most important thing to do in order to sneak in was to cut off the power switch and cause a blackout in the Paris Museum. However, they couldn't enter the power control room in the Paris Museum, so they could only connect to the power switch from the outside and use their hacking skills to hack the power switch in the Paris Museum. Mr. Lingfeng, are you done here? Jiawei was so anxious that he was sweating. Lingfeng was a level 1 godly thief in the fox hunting organization. At the same time, he owed Jiawei's father a favor, so he was here to repay the favor by helping Jiawei steal the necklace. At that time, Lingfeng had hacked the power switch in the museum with his computer for a long time, but it still didn't work. Beginners could use their hacking skills to control computers and hack into large companies to steal money. However, people with strong hacking skills could even use it to hack the power supply of a large place or all the power supply of a large place. Those who were good could even use their hacking skills to make a large venue explode at any time. Of course, the latter could only be done by someone who had reached the pinnacle of hacker skills, such as hacking the power supply of a large venue and using hacker skills to cause an explosion in a well-arranged venue. In the words of the underworld, These were things that only the big shots at the top of the world could afford to play with. I still need an hour. The power and control room in the Paris Museum in Country F are too complicated. Don't rush. After Ling Feng heard Jie Wei's urging, he calmly moved the computer in his hand and continued to attack the Paris Museum's defense system with his not-so-skilled hacking skills. After Jie Wei heard this, he didn't dare to rush him. At that time, Jie Wei saw Yun Jian's group. Why are you here now? Could it be that she wants to take advantage of the time when Mr. Ling Feng is working hard to turn off all the power in the Paris Museum and take advantage of the opportunity to enter the Paris Museum with us? How shameless! When Jie Wei saw this, he didn't even think about it before blurting out these words. However, the moment Jie Wei said this, he saw Yun Jian walk around Jie Wei and walk in front of Ling Feng. What are you trying to do? Eva saw this and stood up to stop Yun Jian. However, just as Jay and Eva were looking at Yun Jian as if she was here to cause trouble, Yun Jian suddenly stopped. In front of everyone, Yun Jian spoke nonchalantly and arrogantly to Ling Feng, who was immersed in his computer. I'm not going to let you down. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 2264. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. Yun Jian's words were straightforward, and Yun Jian was standing in front of the godly thief Ling Feng. When Yun Jian's words rang out, everyone, including Eva, Jie Wei, Calvin, Ella, and Ling Feng, were stunned. Yun Jian actually said that the godly thief Ling Feng from the fox hunting organization was so bad that it was suffocating. Ling Feng, who was called useless by Yun Jian in public, stopped what he was doing and turned to glare at Yun Jian when he heard what she said. Ling Feng did not stop what he was doing, nor did he retort with harsh words. It was as if he wanted to prove himself as he worked harder on the computer that was connected to the Paris Museum circuit. Mr. Ling Feng, you can do it. Seeing Ling Feng continue to work hard on the computer, Jie Wei was delighted. He felt that Ling Feng would be able to break through the Paris Museum circuit and achieve his goal. Yeah, Mr. Ling Feng, you can do it. After Eva heard Jie Wei's words, she raised her hands and stood behind Ling Feng, cheering him on. At that moment, Jie Wei, Eva, and the others had placed all their hopes on Ling Feng. Yun Jian also stood behind Ling Feng with her arms crossed. Ling Feng from the Fox Hunting Organization was a man of few words, but if someone provoked him with words, he would not retaliate. Instead, he would use violent actions to prove himself. This was the personality trait of the Fox Hunting Organization's godly thief Ling Feng. In the underworld, anyone who had the slightest connection with Yun Jian's identity as a special agent, Yun Jian knew the person's identity like the back of her hand. Identity, gender, personality, weapon, and so on. Yun Jian had purposely provoked Ling Feng with her words. As expected, Yun Jian's words had provoked Ling Feng to work even faster on the computer. No, I still need at least 45 minutes to cut off all the circuit gates in the museum. By the time I cut off all the circuit gates, Gui Ling would have already snuck into the museum and stolen a necklace. Ling Feng said as he continued to fiddle with the computer. If one took a closer look, they would be able to see that when Ling Feng said this, there was a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. Gui Ling must be the other godly thief from the Fox Hunting Organization. At the same time, he must be the Fox Hunting Organization's job and the godly thief who wanted to infiltrate the Paris Museum to steal the necklace. The power in the museum's our translation, Mr. Ling Feng. How is the other godly thief from the Fox Hunting Organization going to enter the museum and steal the necklace before us? Mr. Ling Feng? Jie Wei heard Ling when he heard Ling's words, Ling Feng's words. Not everyone like you guys. Translation, not everyone is the Fox Hunting Organization, not a translation. Yun Jian translation, just is Ling. Translation, Ling Feng translation. Of Jie Wei and the others were stunned when they heard Yun Jian's words. At the same time, Yun Jian was already standing beside Ling Feng. She looked at Ling Feng's computer skills and didn't stop him. Instead, she pursed her red lips and spoke. The words that came out of her mouth caused Ling Feng's pupils to shrink. Jiawei, Eva, Calvin, Ella, and the others' eyes darkened. They were shocked that she had such a thorough understanding of the personalities and strengths of the fox hunting organization's Level 1 Godly Thieves. The fox hunting organization's Level 1 Godly Thief, Gui Ling, is good at hiding and moving like a ghost. His only flaw is that he is not strong enough to fight a strong opponent head-on. So, no matter how many cameras are installed inside and outside the museum, he can easily avoid them. The fox hunting organization's Level 1 Godly Thief, Ling Feng, is good at fighting head-on. He is strong and knows a little about hacking, but his biggest weakness is that he can't hide under all the surveillance cameras. He is only suitable for head-on battles. So, we must cut off the power in the museum and cut off all the surveillance cameras in order to successfully sneak into the museum. Ling Feng, is what I said correct? Translator, Tim. Editor, Tim. Chapter 2265. Yun Jian's words were not a question to Ling Feng, but an affirmation. After she said that, Ling Feng, who had been using the computer to try and cut off all the power in the museum, suddenly stopped when he heard Yun Jian's words. You? How did you know? All the information of the Level 1 Godly Thieves in the fox hunting organization is encrypted and sealed by professionals. Other than the few people at the top of the world, no one else knows about this. Ling Feng stopped what he was doing and turned around to look at Yun Jian. His face was full of shock and fear. All the information of the Level 1 Godly Thieves in the fox hunting organization was encrypted and sealed. Normal people would not be able to find out what the Level 1 Godly Thieves in the fox hunting organization were good at and what their weaknesses were. As a person in the underworld, the last thing they should do was to expose their weaknesses to others. Therefore, the fox hunting organization valued the information of the godly thieves in the organization. Once their weaknesses were exposed to the enemy, they would most likely die. Therefore, Ling Feng had just buried his head in the computer and did not mention why the Level 1 Godly Thief in the same organization, Gui Ling, was able to sneak into the Paris Museum. However, he did not mention that he was going to sneak into the Paris Museum like Gui Ling to take back the necklace. This involved Ling Feng's and Gui Ling's weaknesses. After all, Ling Feng and Gui Ling were godly thieves in the same organization. If the two of them exposed each other's weaknesses, it would not benefit either of them. Yun Jian had pointed out all of Gui Ling's and Gui Ling's strengths and weaknesses so accurately. This gave Ling Feng a great shock. It was as if he was naked in front of Yun Jian. This feeling made Ling Feng terrified. Mr. Ling Feng, I think she's purposely messing with your thoughts. Just ignore her. She wants to use your hands to reap the benefits. You can't let her have her way. Seeing that Ling Feng was shocked by Yun Jian's words, Jia Wei, Eva, and the others were also shocked. However, after regaining his senses, Jia Wei thought about it again. Just a moment ago, Yun Jian was acting so powerful and even said things like asking the useless Ling Feng to move aside. In the end, she didn't have any ability at all. She was deliberately pretending to know when she didn't know, so that Ling Feng would think that she really knew. After Ling Feng successfully turned off all the electricity in the museum, he brought them into the museum. Then, while Ling Feng was fighting with Gui Ling, he snatched the sky-blue necklace before Ling Feng could. After saying that to Ling Feng, Jia Wei turned to Yun Jian and bared his teeth at Yun Jian. I'm telling you, I'm the one who invited Mr. Ling Feng here. When Mr. Ling Feng cuts off all the electricity in the museum, don't even think about going in with us. When Jia Wei said this to Yun Jian, he said it in a fierce tone. When Yun Jian heard Jia Wei's words, she sneered. It's time. Just as Jia Wei was waiting to see what Yun Jian would say to refute him, Yun Jian suddenly spoke up. What? What do you mean by that? Jia Wei was dumbfounded when he heard that. In the next second, Yun Jian took off her thick down jacket in front of everyone and handed it over to AI Law. After taking off the thick down jacket, everyone saw that Yun Jian was only wearing a black tights and a pair of black leather pants. The black leather pants had 2 butterfly knives strapped to her thighs. 2 silver pistols were strapped to her waist, and an eagle claw was strapped to her back. In an instant, she changed from a teenage girl to a secret agent assassin. Jay, Eva, Calvin, and the others couldn't help but be stunned when they saw this scene. Before anyone could react, Yun Jian leaped to the thick and tall wall almost within a second, barely avoiding the danger line. Before she left Jie Wei and the others with a soundless message that made Jie Wei puke blood in exasperation. All right, I forgot to mention that I'm best at concealment. Surveillance cameras have no effect on me, so I'll be leaving first. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2266. Looking at Yun Jian's appearance, she was obviously fully equipped, and she actually said that she was also an expert in concealment. This meant that Yun Jian didn't even need Ling Feng to cut off the museum's power to enter. Yun Jian's words made Jie Wei so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. One must know that Jie Wei had been bragging about how Ling Feng could cut off all the power in the museum. But Yun Jian actually had the ability to avoid all the surveillance cameras in the museum. This meant that Yun Jian didn't even need Ling Feng to cut off the museum's power. And at that time, Yun Jian flashed into the museum after saying those words and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Her speed was so fast that even Jie Wei, who had always been unhappy with Yun Jian, was astonished. Who is that little girl? She can actually avoid all the surveillance cameras like Gue Ling. Just as Yun Jian disappeared in front of everyone's eyes, Ling Feng said in a shocking tone, "She is..." Eva was just about to say that Yun Jian was the hand of death in the medical world. But before she could finish, Jie Wei elbowed her harshly. Jay glared fiercely at Eva, then spoke in a somewhat displeased tone. "She's just an ordinary university student. Who could she be?" Jie Wei said in a very unhappy tone. Obviously, Jie Wei was very dissatisfied with Yun Jian's identity as the Hand of Death. The legendary Hand of Death in China was actually someone like Yun Jian. This made Jie Wei unwilling to accept it and didn't want to believe it. Just as Jie Wei finished speaking, Ling Feng's incomparably shocked voice suddenly rang out, making Jie Wei, Eva, Text, Ella, and everyone else present suddenly tremble after hearing it. That's really incredible. Gue Ling's concealment, avoiding cameras and infrared rays, is the strongest among the Level 1 godly thieves in the fox hunting organization. Who is that girl? She actually has the same ability as the strongest Level 1 godly thief in the fox hunting organization, Jie Wei. At that moment, Yun Jian had already avoided layers and layers of 360-degree surveillance cameras in the Paris Museum and quickly arrived at the outside of the Paris Museum. The Paris Museum was indeed an international museum. The surveillance cameras at night were installed. Even a fly would have a hard time flying past its range. But this wasn't a problem for her. Yun Jian was currently leaning against the wall of the Paris Museum. She was looking at the window on the 3rd floor of the Paris Museum. After gauging the height, Yun Jian took out the prepared eagle claw from her waist and held it in her hand. The eagle claw seemed to have a life of its own as she lightly swung it to hook the claw onto the window on the 3rd floor. She tugged on the rope that held her talon tightly. After making sure that the talon had hooked onto the edge of the window on the 3rd floor, she turned sideways and stepped on the wall. It took her less than 3 seconds to make her way to the window on the 3rd floor. He took out the iron wire that he had prepared beforehand from his hair and inserted it into the lock of the window on the 3rd floor. With a gentle tug, the window opened. She opened the window, jumped in, and closed the window. Yun Jian executed the series of actions smoothly without making any noise in the silent night. It took less than 10 seconds for Yun Jian to climb into the window on the 3rd floor from the wall on the 1st floor. Yun Jian had just climbed into the window on the 3rd floor when she heard a noise not far away. Her eyes shifted slightly, and she rolled to the side to hide in the dark. At this moment, two soft male voices came from not far away and entered her ears. Someone just reported that an international thief came to our museum to steal the necklace tonight. Brother, which international thief do you think is so powerful to target us? It doesn't matter who it is. What's important is that no matter who it is, he won't be able to escape today. Moreover, our people have already protected the necklace. No matter how powerful the international thief is, he can't steal the necklace in front of so many Interpol officers. He's not slaying God, the #1 international secret agent. Hee. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2267. The two men's voices sounded, and there was a hint of teasing in their conversation. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Someone reported that an international thief had come to the museum tonight to steal the necklace. In other words, the necklace has been completely guarded by the Interpol. This would be a fatal blow to any international thief. However, after Yun Jian heard this, her eyes narrowed even more. At this moment, in the museum hall, in a transparent glass safe, a string of sky-blue necklaces was stored. The sky-blue necklace did not look like jade. Just by looking at it with the naked eye, one could not tell what material this sky-blue necklace was made of. However, the necklace emitted a pale blue light under the dim yellow light in the museum hall. The pale blue light seemed to have an innate magic that made people want to approach it unconsciously. The necklace was so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. Officer Xing, can that thief really steal the necklace? At this moment, in front of the blue necklace in the center of the hall, a criminal police officer asked another criminal police officer who was obviously in a higher position than him. After hearing this person's question, the somewhat handsome criminal police officer, who was called Officer Xing, frowned tightly and immediately responded, "Yes, Officer Xing, as long as I'm here, no international thief can steal anything from me." Officer Xing said solemnly. Of course, unless they met that woman. However, 10 minutes after Officer Xing finished speaking, the power and lights in the hall were suddenly cut off. Seeing this, Officer Xing's pupils shrank, but he quickly reacted and turned around to rush to the location of the sky blue necklace. Protect the necklace. Immediately contact the relevant personnel to open the power gate. Officer Xing yelled at his subordinates as he rushed. However, just as he said this, Officer Xing suddenly noticed a figure flash behind the transparent glass safe where the necklace was locked. Stop! Officer Xing rushed forward, trying to stop the other party. But before he could catch up, the figure that suddenly flashed by had already disappeared in front of everyone. Damn it! He got away. Officer Xing saw this and did not chase after him. Fortunately, the necklace was not stolen. Officer Xing heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that the thief could not steal the necklace, so he gave up on it and left. After all, to steal the necklace under everyone's nose, it only took 3 seconds. In this world, no one could do this, and he knew a person who could do this. However, that person, that woman, should not be here to steal the necklace tonight. Just as Officer Xing was thinking this, he suddenly heard his subordinates behind him shout in a terrified voice, "Xing, Officer Xing, that necklace has been stolen." Yun Jian left the Paris Museum with light steps. Unlike when she came, she was now holding a sky-blue necklace. The necklace's light blue glow in her hand. Not long after she exited the museum, she ran into Jie Wei, Ling Feng, Calvin, and others who had successfully made their way in. That necklace, it's mine. Give me the necklace. Seeing the necklace in Yun Jian's hand, Jie Wei's expression changed. He wanted to rush over and snatch it. However, before Jie Wei could rush over, Ling Feng's expression changed. He stopped Jie Wei and seemed to have realized something was wrong. At the same time, Yun Jian lifted the necklace and waved it in front of Jie Wei. Even if I give you the necklace, you won't be able to take it out of the Paris Museum. Yun Jian's words were ambiguous. Hearing this, Jia Wei's expression changed. What do you mean? However, just as Jia Wei finished speaking, a large group of Interpol walked over and surrounded Yun Jian, Ling Feng, and the others. Officer Xing, who was guarding the necklace in the museum's lobby, led a group of subordinates and calmly walked over to them. At the same time, beside Officer Xing was a young man in his late 20s. The young man wore a mask and was tall and thin. When Officer Xing and the young man arrived, Ling Feng's expression changed drastically. Gui Ling, you. Ling Feng looked at the young man beside Officer Xing and his pupils constricted. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2268. Good evening, Ling Feng. But soon, you won't be able to get better. At that moment, the young man, who was Gui Ling, looked at Ling Feng and coldly said these words to Ling Feng. Ha ha! Gui Ling, thanks to you, I was able to catch this group of thieves. Oh, right, there's also a level 1 godly thief from the fox hunting organization, Ling Feng. The harvest this time is really not bad. Officer Xing chuckled. It turned out that it was Gui Ling who reported that an international godly thief had snuck into the Paris Museum. Gui Ling had contacted Officer Xing long ago. In order to cooperate, Officer Xing would lend the sky blue necklace to Gui Ling, and Gui Ling would help Officer Xing catch the international godly thief, Ling Feng. Gui Ling's employer only needed to borrow the necklace and return it after achieving his goal. Gui Ling saw Ling Feng, who was from the same organization as him, as a thorn in his side. He couldn't wait to tear Ling Feng into pieces. So this time he borrowed Officer Xing's hand and planned to catch Ling Feng in one fell swoop. While he was at it, he would also arrest the thieves who came with Ling Feng. Okay, the game is over. Who has the necklace? Hand over the necklace obediently. It's time to end this boring game. When Officer Xing saw the sudden change in the expressions of the people around him, he looked around with satisfaction and then spoke. Jia Wei, Eva, and the others who knew they had fallen into a trap were scared to death. What's going on? Jia Wei's face suddenly became extremely pale. He was so scared that his face turned green. Just as he started to tremble, Jia Wei suddenly pointed at Yun Jian and said loudly to Officer Xing, "She stole that necklace. It has nothing to do with us. We didn't even do anything. If you want to catch someone, catch her." Being caught by Interpol was no joke, especially with a thief like Ling Feng. It was something that could cost them their lives. Officer Xing glanced at Yun Jian and said rudely to Jia Wei, "Of course I'll catch her, but you guys, are you sure you dare to catch me?" Just as Officer Xing finished speaking, a melodious female voice sounded in front of everyone. Interrupting Officer Xing hearing this familiar voice, Officer Xing suddenly froze. When the surrounding people heard this, their hearts skipped a beat and they turned their heads sideways. Yun Jian, who hadn't said a word since the beginning, said coldly. Yun Jian's words attracted everyone's attention. Officer Xing glanced at Yun Jian. Although he felt that Yun Jian's words sounded a little familiar, he didn't think too much about it. With Gui Ling as his backer and the strength of his subordinates, Officer Xing spoke boldly. "Who are you? Why wouldn't I dare to capture you?" Sir, this woman likes to bluff the most. She clearly doesn't know anything, but she wants people to think that she knows everything. Go ahead and arrest her." Arrest her. Seeing this, Jia Wei rolled his eyes again and pointed at Yun Jian as he spoke to Officer Xing. However, just as Jia Wei spoke, Yun Jian turned sideways and faced Officer Xing with her delicate face. Her red lips curved slightly, and then she said something that shocked everyone present. So after not seeing each other for a few years, Officer Xing forgot the lesson from back then, forgot how your 156 elites died tragically, and forgot that you personally kneeled and handed the sandalwood box to me. Are you planning to go against me again? Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2269. In her previous life, when her younger brother was kidnapped, Langsha wanted Yun Jian to bring the sandalwood box to exchange hostages with him. Back then, the sandalwood box was very popular. Top international leaders and even some old guys who had been in seclusion for many years came out to fight for it. Some of them even hired top secret agents or mercenaries to fight for the sandalwood box, even at the cost of their lives. And the sandalwood box was obtained by Yun Jian from Officer Xing rather than a fight. It was more accurate to say that Officer Xing personally knelt and handed the sandalwood box to Yun Jian. This Officer Xing was an international-level criminal police officer. His international status was very high because Officer Xing had captured countless international felons. He had even participated in the arrest of a very powerful 3S level wanted criminal back then. Back then, the sandalwood box fell into Officer Xing's hands. However, this sandalwood box had not been in Officer Xing's hands for long. Before Officer Xing could warm the sandalwood box, a terrifying woman appeared. That woman was Yun Jian. Back then, Officer Xing swore that he would never hand over the sandalwood box. Later, Yun Jian killed all 156 of his elites in front of him. In the end, Officer Xing was forced to kneel in front of Yun Jian in public and hand the sandalwood box to Yun Jian. This incident was the shame of Officer Xing's career. At the same time, it was also Officer Xing's nightmare. Officer Xing did not know who that woman was, but after that, whenever he thought of that woman, Officer Xing would wake up from his dreams. Therefore, in Officer Xing's heart, Yun Jian's behavior was not only the shame of his career, but more importantly, it was a nightmare that would make Officer Xing break out in cold sweat every time he thought of it. Originally, Officer Xing thought that the terrifying woman would never stand in front of him again in his life. He never expected this woman actually change her face and appeared in front of him again. Officer Xing was so scared that his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He looked at Yun Jian in horror and opened his mouth, but he was so scared that he could not say anything. What is this woman saying? She actually said that our handsome and brave Officer Xing personally knelt in front of her and handed that sandalwood box? Who does she think she is? Southern Sea Guanyin? Slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking? What a joke. This was really going to make people laugh to death. Officer Xing, let's quickly arrest this thief. An Interpol officer standing next to Officer Xing, who was also Officer Xing's subordinate, suddenly laughed out loud after hearing Yun Jian's words. When he was done laughing, he sneered at Yun Jian with a slightly mocking gaze and spoke with a smirk. Not many people knew that Officer Xing had knelt down and presented the sandalwood box to Yun Jian. At least no one knew about it now, including Officer Xing's subordinates. Hearing Officer Xing's subordinate refuting Yun Jian in such a tone, Jia Wei, Eva, and the others instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Especially Jia Wei. He rolled his eyes at Yun Jian. At first, he thought that Yun Jian would come up with some tricks to let him get away. Even Officer Xing's subordinates didn't know her. Yun Jian was obviously putting on a show. After rolling his eyes at Yun Jian lazily, Jia Wei began to worry about his own situation. Was he really going to be arrested together with Ling Feng? However, just as Officer Xing's subordinate and Jia Wei finished speaking, the surrounding people suddenly saw Officer Xing looking at Yun Jian as if he had seen a ghost. His face turned pale, and his lips turned pale. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and said in horror, "Please remember the domain name of this book." Mobile version of reading website. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.